going to do after that and for the 5-year term, if at all they are elected to the position of president in the country. That is Raila Amolo Odinga and his running mate Martha Wangari Karua. That is something that happened yesterday, but also yesterday the presidential candidates now are down to 4. We had a high of 55. They were narrowed down to only 4 candidates. We have 4 candidates who will be seeking for the top seat. That is another conversation that we are going to be having here. And also the rise of independent candidates. If you have noticed this year, there are quite a number of independent candidates. They don't want to be affiliated with any political parties. They have decided they are going to do it on their own. What are the pros? What are the cons? What are some of the things that have come out? Some have argued that there are some punitive laws in the electoral system that could bar a lot of candidates who vie on independent candidates, not only in this general election, but in future. But we will look at that as well. All that plus much more, we'll be checking what is happening in the electoral sphere, in the political spheres, and any other thing that may come up. We will be having a look at that, and as usual we'll be having a panel of experts here to help us diffuse all that and unpack that as well. Joining me now on set, we are honored to be having what I will say he is my friend, because we have met in the corridors of justice as I reported on matters judiciary and the law on several occasions. He is an advocate of the High Court. His name, Paul Masharia.
Yes.
Karibu sana Council.
Asante, thank you so much.
Now, first things first, what do you make of the Azimio? Everywhere people are talking about the Azimio Manifesto. What do you make of the manifesto?
So, first of all, the manifesto has 10 points, 10 key points. Mm-hmm. And of course, as you look at them, this is a way of trying to lure parties and Kenyans to vote for them. Mm-hmm. Of course, when you look keenly, there is the point about devolution, there are points about women, there are points about youth, there are points about the manufacturing and the processing aspect, and also there is about healthcare. Of course, when you look at that manifesto, it touches on the basic needs, some of the basic needs of human beings. Of course, we know there is food, there is shelter, and there is clothing. Yes. So they have tried to mix the two, the basic needs and the secondary needs of a human being. Of course, we know the secondary needs may touch aspects to do with the employment, to do with the economic empowerment, do with governance. And I think the manifesto seems packed. It has really tried to touch on every aspect of the livelihood of Kenyans. And of course, their hope is that Kenyans will be attracted to it, for which reason they'll end up voting them in. Yes, and because you're an officer of the court, I'm quite sure one of the striking things is that Raila Odinga did talk about, earlier on he's talked about Martha Wangari Karua, who will be looking at matters justice, constitutional affairs, and they also talked about the fight against corruption. We have seen numerous cases at the courts. What do you make of it? Of course, we know one of the challenge that the governance in Kenya is facing is the issue of corruption. Corruption is deeply entrenched to affect the other aspects of human being. As I've mentioned, we have the basic needs and the secondary needs. Corruption has in way affected the service delivery. And of course, to many Kenyans who have suffered as a result of corruption, their relief will be achieved if somebody steps up to help them in solving what seems as a big issue. President has occasionally mentioned about it. Leaders have rose as against it, but really the fight has not really materialized. There are so many cases pending in court. There are so many individuals working, yet we saw them charged. There are so much money that has been lost as a result of corruption. So it will be as a relief. One to the mwananchi, two to the public bodies. And also 3, to the institutions, the independent institutions, because ultimately they are affected when issues of corruption are touched. A good example is if citizens who ought to benefit because of the medicine, the COVID medicine, they are not able to get the medicine, the individuals who have companies and who trade and who participate in the procurement processes, they are not able to get a fair competition ground. 2, the government, using the taxpayers' revenue, it's going to lose money if whatever is paid for is not well utilized. So if as a country we get somebody who is to relieve us from the burden of corruption, being by prosecuting cases, by empowering judiciary, by ensuring that investigations are well done and well concluded, so that every person who is involved will be booked, I think it will be a relief. And that's why I think they are putting it on the forefront, hoping that people will be moved by it and ultimately vote them in.
Chief Justice Emeritus David Kenani Maraga and also the current CJ, Martha Koome, always talked about budgetary allocation to the judiciary, something that the Right Honorable former Prime Minister did talk about yesterday in matters of empowering the judiciary so as to ensure there's access to justice. Some of the cases have been pending for years. Will this be a game changer? If at all that is actualized, because manifestos are just that, manifestos.
Now, when you look at the fight against corruption, and specifically on the aspect of judiciary, on a number of cases you've seen more than 15 persons are charged on one account of corruption. In that one case, there might be more than 50 witnesses. Each person accused has an advocate. So you will have a battalion of 15 advocates for each accused person. And then the evidence will go to the extent of expert with evidence, forensic evidence, to be able to analyze the manner in which the transactions were conducted. So you can imagine a magistrate or even a judge who is hearing that case. And also remembering there are several cases. That case alone, even in a day, it is not even possible to complete with one witness. And the witness, the manner of in which the laws in Kenya allows a witness to testify, there are 3 stages of testifying. 1, you are asked questions by the advocate who called you in court. We call it examination in chief. That is where the prosecution will adduce evidence that will be relevant for that particular witness. And then after that, the advocates acting for the accused persons will come in to cross-examine, to cast doubt, to poke holes on the evidence presented. And then the prosecutor will come in to try to seal the loops that have been dug by re-examining. So you can consider, when you look at that, assuming it is only one magistrate who is dealing with such a case, how long would it take to complete that one case? Now, unless the judiciary is well equipped so that we can have numerous courts, numerous magistrates, numerous court assistants to be able to assist in availing evidence, in availing exhibits, so that if it is possible to decentralize hearing and management of anti-corruption cases, it becomes easy, which is a budgetary issue. If, for example, in Milimani we have 20 cases, assuming, I'm just giving an example, there might be more, 20 cases, and in each case we have more than 5 accused persons, in which event then we have numerous witnesses, around 50 or so. Then it will take time to conclude the matter, not to fault the court, not to fault anyone, but that is how the system is. Now, with an increase in budgetary allocation, the judiciary will be able to flex its muscles in terms of infrastructure. And infrastructure captures the personnels and also the structures. Yes, I think it'll be a good move if it is actualized in fight against
because
corruption.
year on, year out, we always hear about judiciary and the allocation. And away from the Azimio Manifesto for a bit, because we are delving into that legal matter, is that the candidates who are seeking for the top seat, they have accused IEBC of unrealistic demands. We had 55 candidates. They were narrowed down to only 4, and they faulted the electoral laws that we have, and also faulted IEBC, saying that it's like you are working under other forces. It's like the electoral laws are so punitive. They want just to punish us so that we may not be at the ballot for the seat. How punitive are they?
Now, when looking at the laws, there is sometimes the laws are supposed to serve. The law is supposed to serve. The law is an instrument used by the governing bodies to serve. Now, when you look at the body like IEBC, it is supposed to act as accordance to the law that is putting it in place. And then we also say that ignorance of law is no defense. Of course, with change, social change, there will be a change in the laws that are there. That's why you find that if IBC or if the parliament has enacted a law requiring that each particular party to adhere with some minimum requirement, one of the reasons why there will be some minimum requirement, so that not every Kenyan will vie for that post. Of course, in terms of the minimum requirement, there is a fee that one ought to pay. 2, there is the issue of the signatures. And 3, there is the issue of academic qualifications.
They seem very simple, but we saw yesterday they have decided, the laws themselves have decided to lock out more than 50 candidates, actually 51 to be precise.
Because the reason why the laws are there, it is to ensure that there is certainty and accountability and something that transparent manner of conducting business. If you look at the candidates who have been barred, there is 1 or 2 requirements that they've not met. Be it the issue of signature, be it the issue of papers, be it the issue of the other qualification that may be there. The reason why such restraints exist, so that we do not open gates for each and every person. Yes, as much as we are exercising constitutional right, right to vote, there ought to be some restraints so that at least there is order. So the reason why the laws and the systems exist, as much as they may bar some individuals and some colleagues from taking up the seats, as well they ensure that there is some order. Law is supposed to bring some order. And of course, you know, some laws provide the punitive measures in case one does not comply with what it says. Now, for instance, there is the electoral laws that provide offenses that may be there. The reason why there are offenses, it is to bar the people and also to caution them that in case you do this offense, this is what will face you. Now, the reason why there will be laws limiting or trying to, in a way, to limit the extent to which people can exercise their power. One, of course, one can raise the issue of discrimination. But then the question will be, what is the nature of discrimination? Of course, we know we have positive discrimination and we have a negative discrimination. It will be a discrimination for the sake of a better good, rather than just having everyone wanting to become the president. Of course, there will be other ethic issues, the integrity issues. All those are meant to ensure that you have, among the people who are qualified, you have the best to occupy that position.
And still on matters integrity, and also the right honorable former Prime Minister talked about it yesterday, is that the courts have been accused of assisting or aiding integrity questions, because Raila talked about, if at all you mentioned matters corruption and integrity, you have to step aside and everything will be done while you're away. But we have seen governors, they're still in office, they have pending cases in court. Some have gotten relief from the courts, some have been impeached, but the courts have issued a contrary opinion. Do you think perhaps there could be an impediment when we are looking for leaders and we want integrity, just as is enshrined in Chapter 6 of the Constitution, integrity?
Now, on the issue of integrity, integrity touches on the issue of morals and the issue of values. Now, the issue of morals and values, there are people who view it differently. There are different approach to morals. In one section of society, for instance, you might see that there are people who see, for example, prosecution is something that is fine with them. There are others who see prostitution as something that is not fit with them. Now, when you are talking about the cases that are pending, of course, the Constitution of Kenya 2010, Article 50 and 49, they allow people, of course, when it comes to a criminal case, the law is that one is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Now the question is, when is one proven guilty? At the conviction. When is conviction arrived? Once the case has been done and the judgment has been entered as against the person who is accused. You've seen when somebody is taken to a court of law and you are convicted, you have also a right to appeal. You can go to a higher court to seek a review or a second opinion of the previous judgment. In several occasions, the court has found or have found that the judgment that was entered against you was in error and the judgment is overturned. So the issue of the presumption of innocence, it's as much as we might see it is favoring politicians, it is a right that ought to be enjoyed by every Kenyan. It is a constitutional right. And when we look at the history and the reasons why such a right exists, previously, before we got the Constitution 2010, somebody would hate you by the way of your look. And by mere look and by mere appearance, you are condemned, you are charged, and you are convicted, something that you've not committed. Now the Constitution changed the outlook and the manner in which individuals are treated. You can't just say because you are charged, you are guilty. When you go to court, it is the evidence that is brought that will convict you. This evidence will have to be looked at by the court and by the accused person and the advocates, and then they are satisfied. Because one of the principle in the argument that exists, that every person accused has a right to face the accusers and challenge the evidence they are taking into court. The reason is some people can just have cases for ulterior motives. An example I'll give, because this is the area I practice in issues of defilement. Someone can come up with reasons just to eliminate you by giving reasons to suspect that you are the person who defiled a minor. Of course, we've seen it. Previously, there was a report in the media where a person was jailed, he was convicted, and then one of the witnesses, being the child, came up and said, I framed my dad. He did not do the act. Now, assuming we don't have systems to safeguard as against those claims, the society will be in chaos. So it is a requirement of law that once you are charged, go to court. Challenge the evidence. Let your accusers come to court. Let them tell the court.
Okay, hold the thought, Wakili. Hassan Omar alongside the running mate Selina Maida for the position of Governor Mombasa County, using all vying via the UDA ticket. They're currently submitting. Let's first of all hear what they have to say. That's the first senator of Mombasa County, Hassan Omar, now seeking the gubernatorial seat in Mombasa County there, being cleared by IEBC together with his running mate, Selina Maida. Remember, they are vying via the UDA ticket for the top seat in Mombasa. Remember, the exercise is supposed to end today, and still matters related to polls in Mombasa is that the High Court did give former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko a leeway at least to submit the documents today as he waits for his case to be heard. As you can see, IEBC officials there scrutinizing the documents in an exercise that is expected to end today. Remember, 2 more aspirants are waiting to be cleared. That is Shafi Mwakazi, Salim Omar, running mate, Upia Party, Mike Sonko, and Ali Mbogo, who will be vying via the Wiper ticket. We will be keeping a keen eye. Our reporter Junei Karisa is on standby and keenly following that exercise, and will be keeping you afloat with the latest happening. Welcome back. We are discussing the state of politics in the country. Yesterday, Azimio, La Umoja One Kenya coalition, did release, officially launch their manifesto, a 10-point, you can call them their 10 commandments on what they are going to do for this country if at all Kenyans decide to pick them as the president in the 2022 succession politics. And now joining me, we were with Wakili, now we have a politician, and he is vying for the senatorial seat here in the county of Nairobi, and he is using the KANU ticket, the oldest chama cha baba na mama. His name is Engineer John Otachi. Karibu sana, Engineer.
Thank you very much.
First things first, it was an Azimio, KANU is in Azimio. Yes. It was an Azimio manifesto. What do you make of it?
It is one of the most progressive manifestos yet that we've had as a country. It revives hope because it touches on the key sectors that would ensure that as a country we move forward and we build on what we have achieved so far as a country. Yes.
What stood out? I saw Moses Kuri in his Facebook page did say that nothing new here. We've had this, but what really struck you?
First of all, to address what the Honorable Moses Kuri said, you know, we do not expect to get things off Mars. We are here, we are in Kenya. So we have to build on what we already have. So we don't expect anything spectacularly new. We need to only improve on what we already have in place. So what stood out for me, and this is very key, is what I'm passionate about, and is what I promised to like champion when I joined the Senate. It is the focus that the Honorable Raila has on devolution.
So 35%?
Strengthen, yes, exactly. Okay. And it could even go higher, you know, depending on how things pan out. Yeah, when we get to the Senate, you know, we make laws, we can review the laws. Money is supposed to trickle down to the people where it's supposed to have the most impact. So that's the most outstanding thing, and I'm sure that Baba is passionate about it. I am sure he's going to focus on it, and he will most likely or definitely deliver on the same promise.
And still on that, on the devolution, because that is one of the key pillars he talked about, and even in his campaign rallies, he has talked about strengthening devolution. And 35%, we have seen, we have had cases, Wakili can bear me witness, we've had cases in terms of revenue allocation, go all the way to the apex court.
Yes.
35% is not quite ambitious.
It is achievable.
Because you've even said it can go higher. Yes, it can.
It is achievable.
We have the willpower to do that.
Definitely, you know, if you have the driver who is going to be Baba, the fifth, and he is committed to do that, then it is achievable.
But you
And
said
it's
you also need to
practical
be
because
realistic. 35 from around 15-20% to 35 is quite ambitious, if you ask me.
it depends. If you look at what makes sense is how many functions have been devolved. Yeah, for the sake of arguments. We are having like 1,000 units of money to spend. 35% is about 350 units. So we have a whopping 650 units which are left for the national government functions. So it is possible and it's achievable.
Wakil, let me drag you into this. When we talk about party manifestos, Raila is doing his 5th stab. So meaning he has had 5 presidential manifestos. We have had the Jubilee manifesto, we had the TNA manifesto, you remember the laptops, the 6 stadiums. Can we have or formulate laws that bind a presidential candidate to his manifesto? Because there's no point of lying to Kenyans or telling Kenyans you'll do ABCD, but when you get power, when you seize power, we don't see those things. Can we have laws that can even tie somebody to that, to his word?
No, yes, first thing first. In the Constitution of Kenya, we recognize the rule of law. Then the question that we'll ask ourselves, is a manifesto a law? Of course we know. Then when we ask ourselves whether a manifesto is a law, then the next question that we'll ask ourselves, how are the laws created? You know, in Kenya, the laws are created by the parliament through the legislation. They are also created by the courts through judicial interpretations. And then, what is the status of a manifesto? Then, to my view, my understanding, it is not a law per se. It is just a promise. Because you understand, we have 3 organs of the government. We have the executive, we have the parliament, and then we have the judiciary. What happens when as new systems comes into place? When they agree as a government, there is what the government agenda. The government agenda can be driven in the parliament, and then the laws can be enacted to fulfill the government agenda. Of course, that's why the issue of the number is key to every candidate that is clinching the seat. Because when you want a law passed, majority of laws, they just need a simple majority of the parliamentarians, then the law will be passed. Even when you have a very good idea and it is not in line with government ideals, government agendas, it is not very possible to have that pass in the parliament. When you go to the court, when you have the interpretation of a document in a manner that ought to propel that it be a law, unless it is anchored in the Constitution and the created systems and the laws, it can't be passed as a law. Then a manifesto, to my understanding, is just a promise. It's a promise of goodwill. I'm saying, I have been there, I have seen your problems, I can solve them. But you also understand, if Baba is making the promises as an individual, once he gets into the power, you know, Baba cannot go to parliament to legislate. He can't. He can't go to the courts to decide cases of corruption. The much that he can do as the head of the executive, it is to avail the resources needed by the other independent organs. So it's just a promise of goodwill, which if Kenyans are convinced and they agree with it, they'll say, let's try and see whether things will work. But one can be held accountable if that is a law. It's not a law. beauty and the joy is in our constitution, we have systems to check the leaders.
Okay, hold the thought. I'm informed that Hassan Omar is currently addressing the media. Let's first of all listen in.
Election ya wakati huu ni election ya kuinusuru Mombasa, ni election ya kuikomboa Mombasa, ni election, one of the probably the most important election ya umuhimu sana kwa watu wa Mombasa. Tuko na upinzani ama wale ambao ni wapinzani wetu hawana yale maadili na wanataka kuendeleza zile ratiba zao za ufisadi, zile ratiba za mambo ya kiolela, vile ambapo watu wanachukua kandarasi, wanapatia familia, wanaibinafsisha kaunti ya Mombasa, wanabinafsisha rasilimali ya Mombasa ikiwemo ardhi zetu. Tumeona sisi kweli sisi ndio wale ambao tuko na mwelekeo tofauti, wale ambao wanataka kuhifadhi ile hali ya kimaisha iliyoko sasa na wale ambao wanataka kubadilisha ile hali ya kimaisha. Jana tulimwona mzee wetu wa kitandawili alipobuni ile manifesto yake iliashiria kikamilifu.
Hassan Omar there, he has just been cleared by IEBC to vie for the Mombasa Gubernatorial seat on UDA party ticket, and he has also talked about what he will actualize in his agenda when he ascends to power. And he has also there he's mentioned something on the manifesto. Council, you were mentioning something. Kindly, can you?
Yes, I was saying.
Yes.
That manifesto is a promise.
It's a social
we cannot
contract.
tie
Yes,
them
it's a
to,
social contract.
But it can't be a lie, man. We've seen them.
What happens?
A lot of
what
things.
happens? What comes with the manifesto is what we call a legitimate expectation. That a legitimate expectation, once it gets to the minds of Kenyans and they see that we have a legitimate expectation that Baba will fulfill the promises. It applies to all other leaders. They come to us, they promise heaven, they promise water, they promise roads. And then we have a legitimate expectation that if that is fulfilled, our needs will be met. But then we understand, once they get into power, there are other dynamics that ought to work towards the fulfillment of that goal. Jubilee had the big four agendas. Then we can ask ourselves, how many of them have been fulfilled? How many promises by Jubilee have been fulfilled? Of course, when we ask them, they will cite challenges. This is expected. But what we understand, as I said, is a document of a goodwill, and with hope that everything will work towards fulfilling it. But no one can really go to court and say, you said this, you lied.
Otachi, I'm quite sure you have some promises you want to make to Nairobians, and you would like them to hold you accountable. Would you want leaders, and especially now that we are just about to elect new ones, to be held accountable for what they promise Kenyans to do for them?
Precisely. One of the reasons, or the major reason why I'm running, is because of the need to have leaders that are accountable, that do what they promise, leaders that listen to the people, leaders that represent the aspirations of the people. So I have my agenda, which you can call a manifesto. As you understand, my role is mostly legislative, oversight, and representation. But that one is a summary of what we require to operate as a nation. When you're representing the people, for example, on the issue of healthcare, we can do legislation which affects how people receive this healthcare. Baba has promised the Baba Care, universal health for everyone. So it will be our role as senators, our legislators, to ensure that this is enshrined in law, so that even resources are allocated to be able to fulfill the promise that Baba has made. Yeah, so yes, we look forward to accountability, and we will make the leaders accountable to the promises.
I'm trying to just look at some of the things that Baba talked about yesterday, and this question is directly to you, because you are seeking a seat in Nairobi, public debt overhaul, seeking debt relief, cash transfer program,
Yes.
7 years holiday tax for the youth. Looking at this manifesto,
Yes.
vis-a-vis the needs and aspirations of Nairobi
Yes.
as a county,
Yes.
how can you compare the two?
Especially when you're talking about the tax holidays, I've been going around and listening to Nairobians, and they have clearly stated what their needs are. At the forefront is economic empowerment. Everyone in Nairobi wants to have something to eat at the end of the day. Everyone in Nairobi wants to have their child educated. They're talking about proper infrastructure in schools, good health for their families, but especially on the economic front. When you're empowered economically, then you can be able to achieve all the rest of these other issues of society. So when Baba promises tax holidays, when he touches on women empowerment, giving incentives, giving relief, giving loans to these vulnerable groups, it addresses the issue directly, which is affecting the people of Nairobi. So I can say it is in tandem with the aspirations of the people of Nairobi.
Yes, and Wakili, strengthening some of the agencies, because corruption has been mentioned in all the candidates. They're saying I will root out corruption. It will be a no corruption zone. But we have agencies tasked with the mandate of investigating and prosecuting. EACC is one of them. Of course, we have the DCI and other state agencies. And they haven't been quite of help. The needs that Kenyans want is to see people convicted, not people named, not people talk about wash, talk about other economic crimes. How much more is needed? Because the agencies are there, but Kenyans are not seeing the fruits of that. Because if we're talking about 2 billion being stolen every day, that's quite something if we have EACC.
Now, as I said previously, for you to convict someone in a court of law, you need evidence. We know the process of having somebody convicted starts with investigation. Investigations are done by Director of Criminal Investigations in Kenya.
Just hold the thought kindly, because health workers in Nairobi were holding a peaceful march or protest or demonstration at the KICC, and as we speak, Boaz Onchari is currently addressing. Let's first of all listen to what medics have to say.
Law and implement policies as provided by the Public Service Commission. Health workers have suffered the most, and we will not listen to any leader purporting to support NMS. And by this statement, we are putting all gubernatorial aspirants on notice.
Correct.
Ladies and gentlemen, we demand that we be heard and the laid down policies are followed at least for once. NMS came into place because it was purported that the county government was not following the law. Unfortunately, NMS is worse.
Worse.
We put the Director Health and the Director Human Resource on notice.
Yes.
They must stop joking with healthcare workers.
They must go.
They are messing so many lives, and the prayers of these healthcare workers you are seeing here will reach to the Father in heaven, and they will indeed reap from their actions.
Yes.
We demand that EACC investigates them because they are not fit to serve in public offices. We will not relent in this cause. We will get what is rightfully ours, and Aluta continua.
Aluta.
Comrades power! Comrades power!
That is the end of the statement. At this point, I want to welcome my co-chair.
That has been Boaz Onchari there addressing the press on some of the things that the health workers are crying foul. Remember, they had even petitioned the government late last year on some of the conditions that they were working with or working under. And another thing is that during the COVID pandemic, they also raised a number of issues to the point that the Health Commission was proposed, but that is something that was shelved for another day. We'll be keeping a keen eye on the same as we continue with this live discussion. Again, if you just joined us, this is KBC News Check, and we are looking at the state of politics in the country in the light of Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya coalition actually launching their blueprint of what they want to do, their manifesto for Kenyans, 100 days and the whole 5-year term, if at all they are given the mandate by Kenyans to lead this nation. And I'm joined by Paul Macharia, who is an advocate of the High Court, and also we have engineer John Onchari, apologies for that, on Otachi, who is vying for the Nairobi senatorial seat on a KANU ticket. Just before we crossed over to the nurses and the healthcare workers, we were talking about how Kenyans looking at corruption. Corruption has been something that people are using as a campaign tool. We will get rid of this, but there are agencies tasked with ensuring that there is no corruption in Kenya, but Kenyans are not feeling the heat when it comes to prosecutions and people being assets being seized. We will have a government that will have no corruption at all.
Yes, what Kenyans need to understand is that as a country we have laws, we have systems that govern how things are done. Now, I know majority of who are not aware, they might expect that once Paul Macharia is accused of corruption, the next date he is going to sleep in custody, having been convicted of a crime, or having been convicted or accused of eating public money. Fortunately, in Kenya, we have laws, or what we call the criminal procedures, and the criminal justice exists. Now, criminal justice has several aspects. When one is accused, or one is accused of having committed a crime, they are arrested. An arrest follows investigations. Investigations are done by an independent body, and investigation in Kenya are done by the Director of Criminal Investigation, the DCI. Once investigations have been done, the file is forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecution, Mr. Nurdin Haji. Once Mr. Nurdin Haji checks the evidence presented by the investigators, then he makes the decision to charge, and then a charge sheet will be drafted accusing Paul Macharia or any other individual of having stolen or having taken that which belongs to the public. Once that is done and you're taken to court, a charge sheet is read, you either agree to the charges or you disagree. Once you disagree, then it becomes incumbent upon the prosecutor to prove that indeed it is Paul Macharia who stole the money. He stole with his colleagues. The colleagues are listed as co-accused persons. Once that is done, whoever is accused will be given a chance to face the accusers, to challenge the evidence they are bringing before court. And then the court will make a determination that based on the evidence brought before the court, based on the witnesses who have testified, and looking at everything in entirety, we are convinced that indeed this accused person is guilty. That is a process. It involves several parties: the investigator, the prosecutors, the advocates for the accused person, and the court. The court is there. So for you to secure a prosecution, the process has to be checked by the four parties. The four parties then will give their view, then the court will make a determination.
So actually they are just politicizing the whole corruption issue, because even I'm quite sure even Ochoti here will talk about how they are going to be looking at matters corruption. Is it being politicized and used as a campaign tool?
Of course, we know politics is politics. In politics, so many things can be done. Of course, we've seen as one of the strategy, and we have heard about it, that this individual, because he is not from my camp, he has done this and this, or this has been done by individuals in that camp. You know, ultimately the court is the determinant. There is what we call the court of public opinion. Of course, there is what the public will have opinion over. Ultimately, that opinion may differ from what the court has. So I think what needs to be done is a balance between the expectation of people. If people want to follow up on the cases, the courts are open. Anyone can go to court, can sit, can listen, can observe, can follow what is happening in a case. Because in most instances, people just have the story, unverified information. If one says, I'm guilty, I'm not guilty, this is guilty, this one is not guilty, this one stole, this one killed, the court ultimately will decide.
Okay. And Engineer Choti,
Yes.
You are harboring senatorial ambitions.
Yes.
And looking at Nairobi, all the 46 counties will be looking at Nairobi. All East Africa will be looking at Nairobi. What are some of the ambitions that you have for this great county that people should look out for, bearing in mind that all eyes will be on Nairobi?
You rightly put it. Nairobi is the center of action.
Yeah, because I remember
Not
you saying
only
you also have a manifesto on the same.
Yes, of course. I also have my 5-point agenda that I would like to look at. But my 5-point agenda is mostly centered on the people of Nairobi, on the livelihoods of Nairobi. And some of this agenda that I have overlap with what the president or the presidential candidate for Azimio stands for. I'm looking at a situation, and this one I'm emphasizing because I've been around. Our youth are suffering. They're really suffering because wherever you go, they are saying, give us maziwa, give us milk. They mean, give us the little money, the 100 bob, 200 shillings, so we can be able to buy something for us to eat. Very interesting when we talk about something like manufacturing. Manufacturing is a critical component of our economy that we have to focus on. And there is a debate that is going on right now about mitumba. I am sure you have seen that.
Yes.
This is just one of the sections of manufacturing. Baba has addressed that issue and is saying, instead of us always importing second-hand clothes into the country, well, we have the capacity to manufacture our own, then we lose on opportunities of employment for our youth. Our opponents, they are very hot in social media platforms. They are speaking venom against that. And the argument is that Baba wants to kill Mitumba industry. Mitumba, if we talk about Gikomba, for example, it's a market where they sell predominantly second-hand clothes. The market is not going to be demolished. The same market can sell these brand new clothes which are manufactured in our country. You look at the chain, the value chain of manufacturing the shirt that you're wearing. It has to be planted either through cotton, that is farming. We empower the farmers to plant cotton. There is fertilizers which go into that. So the agrovets, get the support within the value chain of manufacturing clothes. We have the transport sector. These raw materials, transporting them to the factories, and from the factories to the market to Gikomba now. That's another sector you are uplifting. And also the middlemen, they make something of the entire chain. So let us be sincere and honest as a country. We want to remain at a state where we kill all the other 4 industries that I've spoken about: farming, transport, the agrovets, in preservation of only a market for second-hand clothes. Yeah, so these are some of the things we are looking at as a country. And within Nairobi, it is a manufacturing hub. It can be uplifted. More investment can be made in this sector. Then we thrive as an economy. And we can even serve our neighboring countries. Yeah, we can become the
5-point agenda. You say it's more or less in tandem with the Azimio blueprint that was announced yesterday.
Mostly, yes, because I'm talking about Pillar number 1 is empowerment of the women, the youth, and people with disabilities. These are vulnerable groups economically. Yeah, that's my pillar number 1. That's my agenda number 1. And how do I do this? Is through legislation. I don't have a budget as a senator, but I will ensure that within the floor of Parliament or the Senate, we craft laws that support these groups. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm looking at affordable health care. Through legislation, affordable health care in your neighborhoods. You should be able to get qualified doctors. You should be able to have drugs in the medical facilities. We should be able to have like maternity services. You will be surprised. Maternity services is a major issue.
Yes.
In especially informal settlement areas. I'm also looking at education, expanding infrastructure. I've been to the informal settlement areas, and you find that classrooms, which are supposed to be holding up to maybe 40 students or pupils, they're holding up to 80 or even 100. They're overcrowded.
No.
So through legislation, we can be able to push some of the monies into these areas.
No.
Yeah.
And Wakili, some people hailed the manifesto. Some have said it's a little bit over ambitious, but is it likely, if its implementation, likely to end up in court, where some people will challenge some of these things? If we are talking about a stipend of 6,000 shillings, you have to show us where you're going to get that money and which criteria is going to be used to identify the most vulnerable families. If you're talking about a monthly upkeep for single mothers, that's another something else that we have to factor in the budget. If you're talking about continuing all these things, that 35% going to devolution, 7 years tax holidays, are they not going to be some, because we've seen everything is challenged in court. We've seen petitions each and every day. You announce something, the following day is being challenged in court.
So as just back to where we started from, Manifesto is an intimation, an invitation, is an expressed will by a candidate. What will happen when Baba gets into power, using the executive power, he can come up with policies. We have executive policies. If it is passed as a policy that the government will implement this, a good example is the free education, free primary education.
Actually, he said in Manifesto, you are going all the way to university.
It is something achievable if it is implemented, because it is a will to do something. Now what happens when he gets into power? He have to marshal the required resources, the required institution. If a law is required for that to be done, the parties that are in support will come up with the law. If a particular policy needs to be passed, Baba has he will have the executive mandate to pass that policy. So what happens when the government takes power? It will have the whole brigadier, the whole group working with it, so that implementation of those mandates becomes easy. For something to be implemented as a law, it has to go through the parliament. If it is budget with for issuance of 6,000, there needs to be a law. This law will come up with how do we identify the person to pay? How do we pay them? When do we pay them? How do we resolve a dispute of non-payment? A law will be created. The issue of school, a policy, a law will be created, because it is an agenda. What I said, every government has its agenda. If the government has numbers, and the good senator here will agree with me that if the Senate has the number to pass a law, if that law is in conformity with the government agenda, nothing will bar that, because they have the number. Once the law is passed, the test to invalidate a law also exists, so that not every person can rush to court to challenge law without any reason to do that. Of course, the Constitution, Article 10 provides there is the aspect of public participation. If the law is to be passed and the public participation is needed, for that law to be effective and to be applied, it has to go through that test. So the issue of being challenged, it can only be challenged as a law if it has not followed the steps that are required in passing a law. Public participation, public opinion. The Constitution recognizes the will of the people. These are the people you elected. These are the people, you listen to them. The issues you have them, you address their issues. If that is done and it becomes a law, nothing prohibits the government from giving people money, from empowering them, from giving them loans.
Okay, there are some countries who have managed at least to have that.
It has happened.
In their system.
One of a good country that have a good social aspect is Singapore. Singapore, the social capital, the social approach to issues, it's way ahead because there are laws, there are policies, there are systems that work together with the government institutions to ensure that the government agenda is achieved. Yes.
Okay, thank you. As we wind up, your final words. Kenyans are so much expectant. They want, if at all, either of the government that will seize power to actualize what they've said, because we have seen earlier manifestos not honored to the letter. As we wind up.
As Wakili rightly put it, a manifesto is a social contract. You cannot enforce it in law, but then you can hold our leaders to account. Remember, even if we elect a president, they do not enter office, there shouldn't be a disconnect between the office of the president and the people. He is the highest representative of the people. We also have parliamentarians, we have MCS, we have senators who are also supposed to check the executive and ensure that they honor their promise. So from the side of Azimio, I would really hope, and I know for sure, that our captain is committed to implementing the manifesto to the letter. Yes.
Indeed. Gentlemen, thank you so much. And of course, as soon as Kenya Kwanza releases its manifesto, we will have at least a member. We've had engineer who is a member of KANU, and he'll be seeking the Nairobi senatorial seat on a KANU ticket. And we also had Wakili here who actually to put things into perspective so that we may not spill over and have issues with the law. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making the time.
Yes, thank you so much for
hosting us.
Thank you so much. And in our second hour, we're taking a short break, but we will be looking at independent candidates. Why? This year, we have so many independent candidates. The presidency, the list was so long, 55 candidates, narrowed down to 4. Some say that we don't like how the IEBC is doing its things. They just want to lock us out, and we want our own voice. We don't want to be affiliated with any political parties. What are the pros, the cons? What are some of the things that the independent candidates have to undergo as opposed to candidates who are affiliated to political parties? We'll be back with that discussion. Don't go away.
Kupata lazima nishike. Kama sikiza tune yako, bonyeza *811 962 hash.
Lazima nishike mapema. Nisiposhika hii simu mapema utakasirika. Unajua mimi nikiwa mtu ya marathon, najua niko na experience kabisa. Niko na experience. If you don't hurry, you will not break the record. Okay, wacha nishike hii simu.
Kupata lazima nishike, bonyeza *811 962 hash. *811 962 hash.
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions. Top sports attractions on KBC Channel 1. In July, Kenya Morans face off against the DRC, Egypt and Senegal in the FIBA Basketball World Cup African qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt from 1st to 3rd of July 2022. Also in July, Kenya plays South Africa in Rugby League test matches in Nairobi with a return fixture set for October. Still in July, watch the World Athletic Championships from 15th to 24th July live from Oregon, USA as Kenyan athletes seek glory. Followed by the 22nd Commonwealth Games from 28th July to 8th August live from Birmingham, England. In August, join our coverage of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships from the 1st to 6th of August 2022 from Cali, Colombia. Then, in November, catch the World Half Marathon Championships on 13th November from Yangzhou, China. Now that's what sets us apart as KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
You'll lead a unit to the front tomorrow. I have faith in you.
Yes, Master.
What about me?
You'll be in the middle with me.
Yes.
But now you're defending the enemy.
You asked Kali to steal our formation diagrams?
Echo,
But how did you find him?
Adrian found him.
Adrian?
You got away with it, didn't you?
Child will no longer be able to know his father. My child will no longer have a father.
Why did you tell your father that you're now pregnant?
But you come back. How I wish you had already been lost forever and never had come back to this house again.
If the child is not yours, why did you agree to be the father? My dad committed suicide.
Pili, nalapa ni wako hapa nyuma. Unaendeleaje?
Better without you all over my face.
Lakini kama leo hakutaki, si akwambie tu.
Hata sio kwa kufikiria watu kualika watu kama hivi.
Kufanya hii sherehe limeniudhi sana.
Wenyewe wanasema kila soko lina mwenda wazimu wake. Naona yule ndo wetu hapa.
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Welcome back to KBC News Checking. Just in case you just joined us, my name is Ben Troy, and on this second hour, yes, it still matters politics, but something that has hit the nation when it comes to matters politics and unique is that there are so many independent candidates from the presidency to the MCAs. Well, in 2017, the number wasn't as high as in 2022 and also in the successive years. And my two guests have decided not to be affiliated with any political parties, but they want Kenyans to make an informed decision and ensure they elect them. Well, the rise of the independent candidates, let's find out more. My next guest have decided to go it solo. On my immediate left, we have Henry Gate. Gate is contesting for the Murang'a gubernatorial seat as an independent candidate. And on my extreme left, we have Engineer Crispus Wadhimba. He is seeking the Nakuru senatorial seat also as an independent candidate. Independent candidates, karibuni.
Thank you.
Yes, and it's quite a paradigm shift this year. As opposed to any other year. Looking at the presidency, 55, they have been narrowed down to 4. And also, okay, the IBC has not released the whole number of those seeking other seats up to the MCAs. But you guys decided we are not going to be affiliated to any political formation or even political party. Well, some may argue that you might get some financial muscle, some some policy adjustments here if you're affiliated to certain political parties. Why did you decide to go it solo?
One, may I say good morning to all Kenyans wherever they are, and particularly the people of Murang'a, where I intend to lead. Good morning, and I am here today to explain just why I am independent and also for you to understand me. Before this, I had a lot of a few approaches, whether I would like to join this party or that. And when I checked with the so-called Wajiko, she expressed a lot of reservations on party politics. The reason they gave that time is that the current government, they were requested to choose 6-piece suit. And in the 6-piece suit, you found that some pieces were not matching the other. Some pieces were maybe dirty or torn. So they were very hesitant to ask me to join any party. And since then, I'm literally looking for votes from them, I listened to them. When they talked of the current Jubilee administration, they have not seen much on the ground. They have not seen anybody going to recruit them as members. When I checked with the party headships in the country, I realized we don't have party grassroots mobilization. We only have officials at Nairobi or at headquarters. The rest is almost empty shell. So what I'm trying to say is they are on the ground, as we may be made to understand, we are political parties. There has been no mobilization. And maybe you are aware that most of the political parties have interim officials, meaning they have never recruited members, they have never done elections. So it is difficult, therefore, to convince Wajiko that I want to join that party or that other party and then go to seek her vote. So on that account, I found myself being an independent candidate. When I told them that, they just clapped. In fact, they told me, they joked and said, we were waiting for you to tell us this party or that. That's why we have always been asking which party you want. But then me, I always told them, you are the party. Once you decide, once you advise me, I'll go that direction.
Okay,
so that's
Engineer Wadhimba, just as Henry here, you decided to go it solo. But looking at the two counties, Murang'a and Nakuru, they haven't produced a lot of independent candidates. And it might not be a 6-piece suit, just like the politicians are urging some of their supporters. But you will be in that ballot.
Now,
as an independent candidate.
Personally, I've had a history of being in a party. 2017, I contested for the Bahati parliamentary seat to the nomination stage. And the nomination was shambolic. It was a total mess. The candidate that won the numbers they had were not the reflection of what the ground was saying. So after 2017, I left that party and I joined That Way Alliance. And at That Way Alliance, I was responsible for coordinating affairs in Nakuru County. And during the 2019, we were pushing for what we call the Punguza Mizigo Bill. And at the height of this Punguza Mizigo Bill, when it was shut down, the government, through the handshake arrangement, was pushing for the BBI. And within Third Way Alliance, we also had some kind of disagreements, where one faction was pushing to join the BBI, while the other was saying we cannot join BBI. But the unfortunate thing with the 5 years experience that I had with political parties is that they are personal property of a few people. So the party members or the aspirants have no say whatsoever. Even if you have your own ideology, that ideology cannot be a reflection of what you want to achieve. So therefore, I made a conscious decision as late last year that I will run for office in 2022, but I'll run it as an independent. Because I believe, I think Kenyans have been served to so many political parties that political parties have failed to serve any purpose. If you look at the 4 governments that we have had, Kibaki to Uhuru to, none of those governments can be identified with the political parties that took those people to power. We had NAC, we had PNU, we had TNA, URP. Most recently, we have Jubilee. Today, they are political vehicles. They are vehicles.
But to be fair enough, is that these political vehicles are what people identify with, fanatical support.
Yes. I'll give you an example. Most recently, in Australia, they had what we call the fires as a result of what people are saying is climate change. And many people wanted to address this issue, but they could not find space in a political party. But the voters in Australia gave a chance to a few independent candidates who went and pushed for an agenda of addressing the issue of climate change. Today in this country, we are suffering from what we call economic challenges, corruption. But if you look at these formations, nobody is able to come authoritatively and say, when the issue of economy is a problem, it is this person, me, I'll do this. When the issue of corruption comes about, it is this person, this, I'll do this. But as an independent, if you don't have any baggage behind you, you can say, this is what I'll do about corruption, this is what I'll do about the economy. So I think Kenyans need to give chance to the person, not the party. It's time to dare with the person for a better tomorrow.
Henry, looking at political parties, they are funded by the exchequer, and we have seen political parties sponsor their candidates. We had UDA at the coast, and also in Kiambaa we had ODM. Of course, all parties, they like supporting their own candidates, and they have the financial muscle. Now, when it comes to independent candidates, you have to look for either source that money from friends, from people who identify with what your policies are. Don't you think you will be, it's better if you're in a political party when it comes to the financial muscle? Because politics, you have to spend a lot of money in politics.
Let me start by saying that political parties are all different. In fact, there are some who are purely struggling financially, just like individuals would be. However, only a few are financed by the exchequer, and because of the scenario I've just told you before, since without members, you cannot also be able to mobilize funding. So they are also like independent like me, but only with a few officials, which I said earlier. So I wouldn't really go for a party for financial support, because that is what people in Kenya have been used to, maybe, or using party euphoria to get to where you want.
But it gives an undue advantage for your opponent who will be vying on one of the political parties we have in the country.
Yes, I agree with you to that extent, but remember, where we are now, we have coalitions of political parties. Azimio is the major one, and Kenya Kwanza. But when you find yourself in that level, maybe with my fellow engineer here, maybe we are fighting for the same seat, but we come from the different parties, but we are under the same umbrella. Now, if you have one mother, say to speak, who is trying to look at 2 or 3 children, which one would be favored? that is a total confusion. Okay. And that's why I'm saying, even if the party wanted to assist the children, it would be difficult because you would not be financing him to fight me or finance me to fight him. So the fact that we are already having parties and then go to coalitions, that is making the whole thing complex, and that is what is making party politics look like a sham in Kenya. Because somebody was asking me, suppose you went to this party and then the party leader takes you to Azimio or takes you to Kenya Kwanza, and that is not your wish. What would you have done? Would you have resigned, and maybe the time have lapsed for many? So what we are doing, and this is what we are appealing to our own supporters, regardless of what we are, because that's what people have said, support us as individuals, as independent, because that way is the same that you would have supported Party A or Party B to get their leaders. You would be surprised, some of those so-called parties would also be looking for us independence, because they can see potential in us, and there is nothing wrong for a party to affiliate with an independent and even assist them to take a seat. Because at the end of the day, what we want is good leadership, and this is what the voter has told us. They want individuals, they don't want parties.
And Engineer, does that resonate with you? Because as Henry is talking about here, is that if a leader, a party leader decides that he or she wants to take this side or this route, then, and you don't want to take that route as well, then it disadvantages you. A case in point is Kalonzo Musyoka. He had exited Azimio and left his his foot soldiers in limbo, because you find a governor and a senator, or a governor and a running mate who are from 2 different parties, including his own party. So they were like, so which route should we take? Should we follow our party leader? Does it give you more freedom to express yourself and to run your things the way they should be? Because if it's Azimio, there is a way that all the candidates in Azimio will conduct their policies. There are some things that they cannot say against any of their leaders. There is a way that you have to do your own things because you are affiliated to a certain political parties. Does it resonate to you?
So like that? The very reason why I felt uncomfortable going with a party for this seat is because there are certain aspects or certain ideas or certain agendas that political formations were following that were not resonating with me. And I felt beyond this election, whether I win or lose, I want to be able to communicate to the people of Nakuru certain things that we need to change. For example, in Nakuru, we have had a challenge where if you find a senator, he's an adversary to the governor. Yet these 2 offices, separate as they are supposed to work together, because a senator is supposed to go to Senate and make sure that as much resources as possible comes to your county, and the governor takes those resources and implements whatever projects that they have, but also the senator is supposed to check. So there is a way that we are supposed to have some kind of cordial relationship. But yet you find even people within the same political party, like the current arrangement is Jubilee, but the governor is a Jubilee person, now the senator is a UDA person. For the last 4 years, 5 years, they've never been able to work together. When the city, Nakuru was being elevated to a city, the senator was disagreeing with that position. Several legislatures, all within the same party, were not speaking the same language. So for what sense does the party being affiliated to a party help? Because these people were Jubilee people, and Jubilee was saying we want Nakuru to be a city, but that members of the same Jubilee party were disagreeing at the expense of the common mwananchi, at the expense of the people of Nakuru. So for me, I want to be independent, so that if the governor comes to me and says, this is the position I want to take, I will listen to the ideas, not the party he belongs to, so that we can be able to work. At the end of the day, Wanjiku votes 6 people, the president up to the MCA. So Wanjiku just wants service. It doesn't care which party you belong to, because at the end of the day, parties don't pay bills.
Now, gentlemen, let's look at it from a case point. This year, we have the two biggest political parties have been said, it's of course the Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza. There are some places, let me just use the 2017 example. There are some places, if you clinched the ODM nomination, it would have been almost a done deal. In some places, if you clinched the Jubilee party ticket, it was a done deal. And you find that you have leaders who do not even have a clue of what leadership is, but they have been voted in because Kenyans have a fanatical support for political parties. Don't you think that will work against you as an independent candidate?
To the contrary, the scenario is changing, and it's changing for the simple reason that you have said. The 6 people he has alluded to, they are elected as under one party, and it's very easy to go through when you have that kind of arrangement. But ask the people now, which is the leading party. From where I come from, Jubilee is the party which punished us. It is the party which made us, brought us this poverty. Is the party which has brought us this confusion. Is the party which has not given us that leadership that we wished for. Look, I even give an example. Sometimes even if you walk to Harambee House, His Excellency President, or even State House, would you really find a symbol of Jubilee or a flag of Jubilee there? No, because like my colleague has alluded to, we only use them as vehicles, and it's very bad to use them as vehicles. We should have ideals. We should have ideologies. And this is why we are now running away from that process of having parties which do not keep ideologies, do not implement their manifestos. Instead they leave wajiko wanasemanga wameachwa kwa mataa. Because tumekusukuma mpaka pale, wewe ukifika pale pate kwisha. Tunangojea mpaka the other time that the year comes for elections. So in my view, we are changing slowly to party politics. And if you go to Moranga, for example, and if you say independent is like a party now. They are forgetting the big parties like Jubilee. They are forgetting the big parties like UDA. They are forgetting and they are saying, we want you as an individual, because they see you as their savior. They see you as the party now, in quotes. They see you as independent as a party. So in other words, the paradigm shift, you may call it so, from the grassroots is because of how parties have treated our people. And I pose you this question: how come we were told that we have over 1 million party members as opposed to the voters register? It means there are a million plus of party members who are not voters, unless the mathematics or the arithmetic is not right. And that tells you people are going somewhere, getting names from wherever and putting them in political parties. We had a big problem when we are looking for independent people. You find a person wants to propose you, then he finds himself or herself in a political party which he never joined. Because people go and collect names, make you join a political party which you are not aware, and then they expect you to subscribe to that party. That's why we have more members in political parties than voters. It's something that we have gone through. We have raised it with IBC and political parties, so that in future we don't have that scenario. It's better to have a party with a very small little membership or few members than to have a party with millions of members who are never recruited.
Oh, and by the way, I see Irongo Kangata has also been cleared. I saw you, the two of you were debating in the KBC organized gubernatorial debate. And away from that, but still connected to that, politics is a game of numbers, and numbers don't lie. If we look at the independent candidates that we had in 2017, we don't expect that number to just change overnight, because Kenyans now are looking at the individual. We don't just expect that to have like 10 independent governors or 12 or half of those, or even because all the governors sit in the 47 counties, we have independent candidates. Yes. We don't expect that to just change overnight. Doesn't that work against you, bearing in mind that Kenyans have a fanatical support for some parties?
One of the challenges I think Kenyans will face in this election is that when you take the ballot paper, you'll go looking for Azimio, you'll not find Azimio.
Why is that?
Because Azimio is a coalition party that is only fielding one person. the president, who is Raila. When it comes to these other seats, governor, senator, women rep, MCA, MP, those candidates are affiliated to their respective political parties. But the wave that is carrying the whole country today is Kenya Kwanza and Azimio. So what is stuck in people's mind is the formations. But when it comes to really electing people, ticking that paper, you will have to look for the individual. Meaning, me, who is an independent, and another person who is in Jubilee or ODM, we must sell ourselves as individuals first, so that our candidates can go and look, oh, Wathimba is here, tick. Because there will be no Azimio, there will be no Kenya Kwanza. There will be just parties. A huge list of parties and names. So the issue of they have undue advantage is not there. Yes, these big political bigwigs are saying 6-piece, but 6-piece to what? You will not have an Azimio symbol for all these candidates. It's only one person who will have a symbol for Azimio. So, you know, a lot of Kenyans are not well informed about the political process. Okay? Civil education has not been done. Okay? So we as independent, we have an opportunity to sell ourselves and also educate people, so that these numbers that we have not been having, they can come to our side. So I believe we may not have all the numbers, but we'll have a big chunk. We'll erode a bit of those numbers that are owned by political parties. Because parties that like Jubilee, ODM, that have been there for a long time, that are associated with certain challenges, depending on where they are strong, will lose their supremacy to us and to other political parties.
Okay, Henry, you're contesting for a gubernatorial seat, and what I figure is that if at all it's Azimio or Kenya Kwanza, they're supporting a candidate in Murang'a County. They will have a secretariat because the governor has advisors, you know, you do A, B, C, D, just as the party or as a coalition has dictated. That, I believe, it's a wealth of knowledge, because you'll get ideas from a number of party officials. But now, you're just Henry. You're just Henry Gate, who wants to be the governor of Murang'a County. How are you going to counter that?
Let me start by saying that as we went through that debate of...
Because I believe two heads are better than one.
Yeah, it's true, I get you. But what I did is, every meeting I went, I used to pose that question. Where Mwangi, which party do you belong to? Where Joki, which party do you belong to? Where Waithira, which party do you... And they all say they don't have a party. So first of all, we must agree that we don't have people, those Wajikos there, they don't have parties. They only follow parties because they didn't have any option. Remember, this idea of independent came recently. And when it came recently during the 2010 constitution, they have not, it is now being assimilated slowly by slowly. So the 2017, they understood it better than they do at, now they have understood it as, again, with a slight edge, with a better margin. So, in a nutshell, the people I have there, who are even very good than the had-picked party officials, they are giving better advice. Because I told you earlier, the party memberships we have, the party officials that we have are all interim. So they have been hand-picked by somebody. And he has just said these parties are people's properties. If you have a party, as big as it may be seen, it is still in Kenya perceived it to be somebody's property, and you move around with its certificate in the pocket. So what I'm saying is, I have better officials in the name of Wajiko than the so hard-picked officials. And going forward, I have a strong belief that they are giving me the right story, and I would be having from even a list of interactions. Of course, I have my own structures, even at the lower levels and even at the summit level, whereby I even have intellectuals or professionals who advise me. So on that account alone, I possibly have a better structure than would have been dictated by a party, which I can now use and to my advantage. The other one, you have first of all to look back and ask your party leader or your party boss what he thinks about it. I am not in that quagmire. I am straight and looking forward like a horse.
Engineer Dimba, you want to dig in?
Yeah, I want to dig in.
As you dig in, I don't think perhaps it will be better when you be marshalling numbers at the Senate. Being an independent, more or less, you will kind of take sides. And perhaps you have to take sides.
No.
That you don't feel that exactly
that are
what
comfortable with you.
Yes.
Let me just take answer on the issue of organization on the secretariat. I'll give you an example. When we were doing our presenting ourselves, we had I think 6 independent candidates and 4 from political parties. And I remember one of the aspirants showing up without the right paperwork. And this is a person who has come from a political party which is supposed to be organized, which is supposed to have officials to help that person prepare the right documentation. For us, most of us independent, we were just taking 20-30 minutes because we were organized. So don't associate organized political parties with being organized. They are not organized.
Okay.
Organization is an individual and the leadership. So we are coming as leaders who can organize people. For me, I had a team that I work with, and they were able to put together all my documentations so that when we went there, we were not having a problem. When it comes to running political party affairs in Senate or in Parliament, well, I'll be very honest with you. You've seen when there was a stalemate on division of revenue, and members of same parties would disagree. Jubilee people were disagreeing on how the revenue will be shared. The wheelbarrow people were on one side, the Uhuru people were on the other side. So when it reaches to representing the people who elected you, it doesn't matter about political parties. What matters is the people who took you to parliament. So your interest is that of the county that you represent, or the constituency that you represent, or the ward that you represent. The same applies to governors, women rep, and all the other leaders. Even the president, at the end of the day, he has to look at the country, not the party that he subscribes to. So I think when it comes to marshalling numbers, obviously, if the majority party will reach out to me on an issue that I identify with, I will support. If it's an issue I don't identify with, I will not support with. And when I say identify with, does it champion the interest of Nakuru? Does it align itself with the goals and aspirations of Nakuru and the country? So in terms of numbers, it will be a negotiated process, and we will work together with people we share like minds.
Henry, he has correctly put it that if at all the ruling coalition or the other party reach out and it's something that you ascribe for, you have at least a decision to make.
Yes.
But when you're in a political parties, you just have to move with the party. Now, looking at your aspirations to be a governor, you must have looked at what has been done, what hasn't been done. You must have tasted the parties and seen, I cannot ascribe to this. I want to do things my own way. What are some of the things you intend to do differently? Because the governor that has been there has been from a political party, and other candidates, there are some other candidates who have also decided to be in a political party, but you are going it alone as an independent candidate.
Right. My approach to this is totally radical, because I know even when we make manifestos, we tend to just copy and paste. And I did watch, for example, briefly about the manifesto of Azimio last night, which looked more a replica of what I've been telling my people. But doing this differently is what I want to capture this time. I'll give you an example. The area I come from is tea and coffee, yes, which we are always told they are cash crops. And if they are cash crops, they have been there as much as we have been alive, most of us. And some of us have even benefited to go to school through some of those. However, the same way we produce coffee and took it to the factory in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and today is the same. The tea factories that were constructed in the 60s and the 70s are still the same. Now the question is, we cannot expect to do things the same way and expect different results. So mine is coming in as a radical way of saying we must change the way we do things, the way we look at our cash crops, is either we grow them or we stop them, because it doesn't add value to be telling the farmer every year, every decade that coffee prices will improve if we do ABCD, tea prices will improve. How many times have we had this? So what I want to say is I have a radical approach in making industries as the way to go and adding value from what we have been doing. For example, coffee, you can still roast it at the lowest local level and take it as packed in small packages and taking it to bags to the so-called coffee brokers or whatever, until the same. So there's something I'm saying, that nothing will leave Murang'a unless it has been added value. And to do value addition, I will be attracting factories and manufacturing through industrialization that will make Murang'a change, even the coffee, even the macadamia nuts, even the avocado, name it. So many agricultural products which leave the boundaries of Murang'a without any added value. The farmer is just twisted by the broker or the fellows who move around collecting those produce, and then they are taken out of Murang'a without any value. We will be saying, we will pass a bylaw that will say that we cannot allow something to leave Murang'a unless there has been value addition. And the reverse will also work. We will not allow anything to enter Murang'a if we are able to produce it from there. And I think I got that also from them. There's me, I think this time they are willing even not to let things from outside the country enter here if we are able to make them. That will force industries also to agree to come to Murang'a. For example, we have industries in Nairobi, we have industries in Athi River, we have industries in Ruiru, Thika, places where industrialization or the areas for industrialization is already congested, or the input to industrialization are not there. We have the resources of water in Murang'a, we have the resources of land in Murang'a. So with this kind of change, I'll have that paradigm shift, and it will make it different the way things have been done. You know, the current Murang'a leadership, as much as we respect them, they were doing a bit small things down there, giving mireos or dara or manure. Those are not a governor's work. The governor's work is a bit there. Try and make something that will last forever. There's something that is of posterity to these people. Okay. And this is the change I want to give to the people of Murang'a. Okay. And mainly, and I underline, it must come through industrialization. And to that, I am not just talking of the big industries coming from the towns I've mentioned. I'm also talking about cottage industries. And the cottage industries, you can even make it in your room, in your kibuko, So it will be as easy as that, but we must take the necessary steps to arrive there.
Okay. Engineer Adimba, he's riding on value addition, something that he says he has noticed that the former regime that was, of course, affiliated or ascribed to a certain political party were not able to actualize. Yours is the Senate, and you want to do something differently. That is why you didn't ascribe to any political party.
Yeah.
Now you are the senator of Nakuru, let's say.
So, three things that motivate me to run for this office and
as an independent,
yes, and depart from my predecessors.
Yes,
is number one, the issue of leadership. As I told you, Wanjiku elects 6 people, but he expects services from all of them. So when these 6 people can't work together, it's Wanjiku who loses. So for me, as elected as a senator of Nakuru, number one, I'll champion an agenda of bringing leaders together, where we can have a conversation with the governor, with the MCAs, with the elected MPs, okay? So that at the end of this conversation, the interest of Nakuru County can be championed. And one of the most important things I'll tell you about Nakuru is that out of the 47 counties, Nakuru is among the top 5 in terms of contribution to the national economy, the GDP of the country, with its own 5% share. Therefore, if Nakuru is contributing 5% to the GDP of the country, then what is it getting in return when the cake is being shared at the very top? So I want to champion an agenda where we can increase that share that we get from the national government, okay? Because it's not commensurate with what we give. In terms of the numbers that we have, in terms of votes, in terms of the economic contribution that we make to the country. So My agenda is to push for a bigger share. The current center was against that motion. For me, I want to advance it. Number two, we also have resources within Nakuru County that we don't see much benefit from. We produce over 713 megawatts of geothermal power from Nakuru County. The contribution it does to the economy is huge, but how much of the revenues generated from that power comes to Nakuru? That's an agenda that I want to champion, because if we can get more revenues outside what the national government gives, the governor can be able to do much more. We need to stop this narrative of county governments being dependent of the national government. They also need to be self-sufficient with time. 10 years of county governments, 3,000 billion or 3 trillion spent on them. What do they have to show for it? Have they been able to increase their revenue generation capacity? Have they been able to improve systems where they can reduce leakages? So that's what the Senate should do, focus on. How can we make these county governments better? Do we introduce the issue of county revenue boards so that these county governments can be charged with the responsibility to generate revenue, and that revenue is managed properly, so that we need to look at county governments as businesses that needs to stop now being, we have sunk enough money on them. They need to start now giving some returns over the next 10, 20 years, so that the reliance on the national government can be reduced. Okay, so the issue of leadership is very important for me, so that we can be, I cannot work alone. Number two, the issue of promoting increase revenue for the county government so that it can be able to grow, and with that we can achieve what we call a shared economic prosperity for all the people in Nakuru. And lastly, we are lucky, from 2007 we have not had any incident of violence, and I hope that even this election peace will prevail, and that's something I'll also continue championing and being able to work in a peaceful manner with other leaders, so that Nakuru County can continue being as peaceful as it is now.
Indeed. And gentlemen, looking at political parties, they have a way or a system of doing things that, if it's a president elected on a certain political party, to the MCA, it will narrow down to that. More or less call it whipping. It's more or less they are being checked, put in check. But you guys are independent. Who will check on you? Start with you, Henry.
Well, in every electoral process, an elected leader is mainly accountable to the electorate. And the electorate is already represented at the various levels. The MCA, the member of National Assembly, the member of the women rep, and so forth. So that is a very, very good check in itself. However, the national government and the county governments are interdependent. So there are various institutions, even within the national government, which check what the county is doing. So it's not like you have a free hand and there is nobody who is policing you. No, in fact you are being policed by the more important institutions rather than a political party. And a political party which has no foundation, a political party which cannot keep its manifesto or cannot keep its policies, and a political party which cannot honor its rules, it has no business even supervising a governor. It has no business supervising any of the people elected at the umbrella, because they themselves do not even have any. I started by saying they don't have even elected officials, most of them. So let's leave about the issue of political parties in terms of who checks on what the governor does. Look at the established institutions, which are very credible, some of them, that will make you perform the economic and the social aspects of your county. Once done, the political part of your being there does not matter a lot, because Wajiko is there and she's already checking on you, and she has the advantage of They have so vibrant MCAs nowadays, you know them.
Yes.
They put it to task.
It's a good thing that we have the 2010 constitution, which has quite changed.
So it's a well balanced check of system that nobody would really misbehave because there is no political party. In fact, you are better off when you are independent because you don't have to. You can actually be the mzee wa kijiji. Everybody who has problems, even those guys in various parties, when they are fighting, you can bring them together and then you can show them the way to go. The party is not the issue; is us individuals who have the problem. So on that account alone, independent is the way to go.
All right, Engineer Wadimba, I saw you nodding. You concur with what he's talking about. You don't need to be checked on party ideologies. You just need the electorate who voted you in to check on you, and the agencies that have been mandated to check on the same.
Yes. What I'll tell you is that even when political parties check their own members, it is when those members try to be of independent.
Smarter than the party.
You understand? when Isaac Mwaura, the nominated senator, decided to take a independent view of things, that's how he was checked, by being told we are kicking out of Jubilee. So there is we have not seen where parties have applied those checks and balances in a fair manner. But I believe if we can also just not put it on paper that Wanjiku can check me, we create a mechanism where Wanjiku can be able to recall an elected leader without going through very bureaucratic processes, then that is where we'll be able to institutionalize the process of accountability. Because you see right now how they have reduced the number of independent candidates because of the issues of signatures, collecting IDs. It's just ways of trying to reduce our ability to join this process as independent candidate. Imagine now for Wanjiku to remove an elected official. The law is so laborious that they cannot be able to do that. So for me as a senator is to be able to champion for a narrative where, or a process where, even Wanjiku in her own small way, she can be able to recall an elected official without going through a very bureaucratic process. And that's when now leaders will know they are not just accountable to whoever took them to parliament, if it's for example a party, but the person who voted for you. And that's the biggest check that we can all dream for. Number two, I think also the media needs to stop being biased to political parties.
That was my next question.
Yes. To stop,
since you have preempted
stop being biased to political parties because they have muscle. We may not have the money, but we have the mindset that can change this country. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by even what tons of money. And I believe right now, Wanjiku is just crying for a leader. Somebody who can identify with her problems. And I don't think even all these political parties can identify. Because, let me ask you, for example, you call yourself a hustler movement, but when you're arriving to our rallies, you come with 5 choppers. The money that you spend with those choppers can solve over 1,000 households' problems that evening. So, how do we identify with you? I'd rather be me who has come independent without any party, without anything. But I've come with words of wisdom. I've come to challenge you, so that you can become better with words, with ideas, not money.
Okay, and because of interest of time, and the good thing is that he has brought it up, is the media, we've been bashed. Of late, we've been bashed by some section of the politicians talking about we are being biased towards some of the people. Of course, the good thing is that we haven't been mentioned as one of the institutions that have done that, because at the end of the day, we still remain a Wanjiku station, and we have to champion the interest of all Kenyans. How would you want the media to cover you guys? Because the good engineer has talked about media, we are kind of biased because we just concentrate on the big ones. In every news item, you hear of Azimio, you hear of Kenya Kwanza. In your view, have we, the media, have we been objective enough in covering independent candidates as well?
I would say 50-50 because you are different, and each media house has its own way of looking at things. And again, the media houses are also spread nationally and also regionally. That aspect alone makes the operations of any media house unique in its own sense. For example, if it's a media which only broadcasts in the local language of my county,
yes,
it certainly behaves different than a media that talks of national issues. To that extent,
it's a good thing you've observed that.
Yes, it's very different. Now, it happens that media is not a monster. It's led by individuals. So you are an individual like me. We behave individually. So we have individual attributes which can actually be seen like it's the media. Just like you are told sometimes, when I become the governor, at what time will I be seen as the governor or Engineer Henry? It's for you to show the way. So the media also, because we also behave differently. Just like a policeman, when does a policeman behave like a policeman or the individual? Of course, when he's in his house, he's an individual. When he's in the streets, the kofia is a policeman. But we have always that problem of trying to put a divide between the individual and the institution we serve. And some of the people in the media have literally taken sides with the individuals because either they love them or they like them, or because of other considerations. That has happened. But for the purposes of what I know, because the law requires that you are not biased. The law requires that, particularly this time of politicking, that you give us equal opportunities. Yeah. Me going forward, I think this is a first step. You are doing it well. And when you came to Murang'a, you did it well. And since the Wajiko listens to you, since they believe, in fact, somebody can even cause an accident trying to rush to either to capture a news item or to capture a program on the TV or radio. So people believe in you. So using that trust that people have given you, please use it to, one, give them the little civic education they need. Because they need it. They don't understand. Imagine if you are faced with electing 6 people in a ballot booth, and you have only a few minutes there are people in the queue, and one list of the Nini has 20 maybe MCs. The other one, like mine, possibly you have about 8. The presidential, luckily, may have the fewer now that we have. MPs in some cases they are touching 20. Women reps and senators, and you have to do this within a few minutes. Honestly speaking, without proper civic education, utaenda useme dabrakadabra wherever, then you realize what you might decide. Or maybe you just look at me and you like my glasses, maybe it's not you wanted, but since you have a pressure on to decide, then you make the wrong decision. So we can use this media opportunity, the media trust the Wajiko has on to give them a bit of civic education, tell them how to get a good leader, because he has said it very well. What Wajiko wants is a good leader, not necessarily a politician. In particular, for the seat I'm running into, it's a place where it's a seat that they are saying they want a leader, they want a manager. They don't want a politician, because we have been treated by politicians loud and proud. And but the unfortunate thing is we must play politics to get into the gubernatorial seat or to whichever other seat, even when your intent is good leadership.
I know that this hour was dedicated for independent candidates, but you guys have heard about Azimio La Umoja Manifesto. Of course, we talk about it just in 2 or 3 minutes.
Yes.
And even Kenya Kwanza, the day that they launch theirs, we will be able to scrutinize it. You've seen it, and you have a voice as well. What do you make of it?
Well, I'll tell you, I was there yesterday when they were launching the Azimio Manifesto. It's exciting. There's a lot of hard work to be put into it. And what I'm looking forward to is the first 100 days. Remember Kibaki first 100 days? They were able to define his entire presidency. So what Raila and Martha Karua, if elected, would achieve in the first 100 days will define how they will be able to achieve their 10-point agenda. It's quite ambitious, but it's achievable in my own opinion, because if we can address one of the most critical things we have in this country, corruption. Because a lot of the promises that have been put there, and even the promises that I would want to Nakuru to achieve through the person who is elected as governor, is that at the bottom of all this, can we cut down on corruption? Because corruption is eroding any gains that we make, and even eroding our ability to gain more. So if we can be able to just slay this dragon called corruption in every sector of the economy, whether it's at the county level, national level, parastatals, wherever it is, we can save a lot and be able to bring those benefits to the common man and be able to lift the economy.
As we wind up, Henry,
yes,
talk to the electorate. Tell him something that he or she wouldn't be told by somebody in a political party as we wind up. We can also touch on the Azimio blueprint as well.
Thank you. Let me start from there before I talk about myself. Manifestos are very good, and I really alluded to this. And I want to say, in Kenya, we have very, very good documents. The problem has always been implementation. You see, I listened to part of it, and I said, oh, this is part of what maybe was there in Kibaki's time, or even other parties, they presented the same very, very good things in there.
Okay.
But
in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, what I'm saying is, if we can implement even part of it, is good enough.
Okay.
Now, coming to myself, I may not have to be a civil engineer. In fact, I was educated just a few blocks away from here, and the civil engineering block. Yeah,
I have two engineers.
Civil engineers.
Yes. Yeah, because we want to get a change.
Okay.
Professor Echar, that time, he was our chairman of civil engineering. The civil block is next to the police station, and he was telling us that the engineer is that person who, by way of training and experience, is able to transform the resources of nature for the benefit of mankind. Meaning that this person has a knowledge, and compared to other professions, they are also good, because if each profession is destined for something different. For example, there are those which go for services, there are those which go for development. For a gubernatorial post, which I'm going for now, an engineer fits in very well. And a civil one, for that matter, because civil means public, and that is the public we want to serve.
Okay.
Now, the way I want to do things, the way I would like to appeal to our people out there is to look for that, because I was told, even as professionals, we don't offer ourselves easily for political posts because we fear being smeared with mud. But some bishops told me, even if you are smeared with mud, you'll be able to clean yourself easily.
Okay.
So out there, I will be seeking votes, and since I am independent,
yes,
I will ask for votes even from those supporting Azimio, those supporting UDA, those supporting even those guys within the umbrella.
Okay.
And I know we will make a better county.
Okay.
My party symbol is a binoculars, which you allow me to be seeing Muranga from wherever I am.
You have to be
Thank you very much.
Engineer, Malizia.
Mimi nasema, I want to congratulate the people of Nakuru for giving me the chance to be elected as a senator. And I trust that come 9th of August, they will elect me. And one of the things that they should believe in me is that once elected, I want to push for an agenda where county governments across the country can be self-sufficient, so these counties can be able to generate their own revenues and manage that revenues very well. That is my main agenda. Remember the CDF law that was brought by an engineer? I am also going to be an engineer who's going to bring a new law that will promote the growth of revenues within counties.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Engineer Crispus Wadimba, and who is seeking the Nakuru senatorial seat, independent, and also engineer Henry Gatti, and apologies, I didn't refer to you as engineer in the first place, who will be seeking the Muranga gubernatorial seat. And you have a good memory with some definitions. I think I've forgotten some definitions in journalism. But thank you so much for gracing the show, and thank you so much. All the best. All the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have come to the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. My colleague Khalid Abdullahi is coming up next with the Kurunzi Mashinani. Thank you so much for watching. Let's continue this conversation on social media.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You'll lead a unit to the front tomorrow. I have faith in you.
Yes, Master.
What about me?
You'll be in the middle with me.
Yes.
But now you're defending the enemy.
You asked Kali to steal our formation diagrams?
Echo,
But how did you find him?
Adrian found him.
Adrian?
You got away with it, didn't you?
Child will no longer be able to know his father. My child will no longer have a father.
Why did you tell your father that you're now pregnant?
But you come back. How I wish you had already been lost forever and never had come back to this house again.
If the child is not yours, why did you agree to be the father? My dad committed suicide.
As campaign intensifies for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Mpambe Gibson Gadhu Mbugwa almaarufu prosecutor kwenye kipindi ukipendacho Vioja Mahakamani kwenye runinga ya KBC Channel 1 anaomba usaidizi wako kudhibiti gharama ya matibabu ya figo. Jamaa na marafiki wameandaa mchango mnamo tarehe 11 mwezi ujao wa 6 kwenye ukumbi wa Charter Hall, jumba la City Hall jijini Nairobi. Waweza kutuma mchango wako kwa paybill number 247247, nambari ya akaunti 777626. Gibson amekuwa mwandani wako na wangu kwa muda usiopungua miaka 40 sasa. Ni zamu yetu nasi tuwe wandani wake wakati huu mgumu.
Pili, na labda ni wako hapa nyuma. Unaendeleaje?
Better without you all over my face.
Lakini kama leo hakutaki, sikwambie tu.
Hata sio kwa kufikiria watu kualika watu kama hiyo.
Kufanya hii sherehe limeniudhi sana. Wenyewe wanasema kila soko lina mwenda wazimu wake. Naona yule ndo wetu hapa.
Elections on KBC Channel 1. In July, Kenya Morans face off against the DRC, Egypt and Senegal in the FIBA Basketball World Cup African Qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt from 1st to 3rd of July 2022. Also in July, Kenya plays South Africa in Rugby League test matches in Nairobi with a return fixtures set for October. Still in July, watch the World Athletic Championships from 15th to 24th July live from Oregon, USA as Kenyan athletes seek glory. Followed by the 22nd Commonwealth Games from 28th July to 8th August live from Birmingham, England. In August, join our coverage of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships from the 1st to 6th of August 2022 from Cali, Colombia. Then in November, catch the World Half Marathon Championships on 13th November from Yangzhou, China. Now that's what sets us apart as KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Ahlan wa sahlan mpenzi mtazamaji popote ulipo, ni Jumanne ya tarehe 7 mwezi wa 6 mwaka 2022. Hujambo na karibu, natumai uko mzima na uko salama. Wakati mwingine mwafaka wa kukuletea wewe mtazamaji taarifa za kurunzi mashinani. Kumbuka unaweza kutupata moja kwa moja kwenye mtandao wa kijamii. Ukurasa wetu wa Facebook ni @KBC Channel 1, kule Twitter ni @KBC Channel 1, kwangu ni @Khalid Abdullahi. Kumbuka tovuti yetu pia ni www.kbc.co.ke. Natumai utaandamana nami hadi tamati. Mtazamaji, ugonjwa wa saratani unaendelea kukithiri kote duniani na kuathiri watu, jamii na mifumo ya afya. Kundi la watu waliopona saratani limeanzisha uhamasisho kuhusu saratani na jinsi ya kukabiliana na ugonjwa huo. Hatua hiyo, kwa mujibu wa afisa mmoja wa kundi hilo, inalenga kuwahimiza na kuwasaidia waliopona ugonjwa huo. Pauline Nasimiu anaripoti.
Chini ya kituo cha matibabu cha ugonjwa wa saratani cha Texas, kundi hilo lilipata nafasi ya kutangamana na wataalam na kuhimizana. Afisa mmoja wa kundi la waliopona saratani, Esther Nzoli, alisema watu wengi wanapobainiwa kuwa na ugonjwa huo hujitenga na kusononeka zaidi, kwani wengi wao hawana ufahamu mwafaka kuhusu ugonjwa huo.
It was not easy for me even when results came out. It was cancer, cervical cancer stage 4. And you know, in the mind, when you are told you have cancer, definitely it's like you have lost everything. So to me, it was like life is no more.
Dorothy Mulei aliyepona saratani alisema kukabiliana na ugonjwa huo si rahisi na mgonjwa anahitaji usaidizi kutoka kwa familia na marafiki.
Immediately we came here, Texas Cancer Center, and saw Dr. Nongesa. Admitted for 2 weeks and then I was managed, but then she referred me to a hematologist, a doctor that deals with cancer blood, and then he told me then partially they treat here in Kenya, but for fully treated I should choose either South Africa or India, and so that would cost about 2.5 million. So the first shock was cancer, and secondly the money.
Mtaalamu wa ugonjwa wa saratani Daktari Catherine Nyongesa alisema ugonjwa wa saratani ni mgumu kugunduliwa, kwani una dalili za magonjwa mengine na wagonjwa hufanyiwa uchunguzi wa magonjwa mengine na baadaye kugunduliwa kuwa na saratani ikiwa tayari imesambaa mwilini.
One of the challenge we face is delayed diagnosis, so they come when the cancer is a bit advanced, some of them. Another challenge is the financial. They don't have an HIF card or they don't have money to pay for their treatment. Another challenge is just navigating through this difficult system, like, you know, from the counties to go to Nairobi, you know, where you can get actual diagnosis and treatment. So that just the complexity also brings a challenge to them. Another one is the family support. Some don't have good family support, and then the stigma. Some people assume that when you have cancer, it is a death sentence, and which is clearly not, because we've seen it from the cancer survivors.
Amefurahishwa na usaidizi wa serikali katika kupunguza visa vya saratani kote nchini.
Government has really done a lot in the past I would say in the last decade, we have many cancer centers that have come up to just assist with patients. I can just name a few, like the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, Moi Teaching Referral Hospital. Today we are launching the Nakuru PGH Hospital for just cancer care. Soon we'll be launching Garissa. So there's a lot of development in that aspect.
Walikuwa wakiongea katika kituo cha kukabiliana na matibabu ya saratani cha Texas walipokuwa katika sherehe za maadhimisho ya siku ya kitaifa ya waliopona ugonjwa wa saratani iliyowaleta pamoja waliopona ugonjwa huo kote nchini.
Na mtazamaji, watu 5 wameaga dunia na wengine 12 wamelazwa hospitalini baada ya lori walilokuwa wakisafiria kugongwa na treni kwenye eneo la Ruiru, kaunti ya Kiambu. Kwa mujibu wa maafisa wa polisi, dereva wa lori hilo hakumakinika kuhusu mwendo wa treni.
Alama za barabarani karibu na reli hiyo.
Kama vile mmeona daraja imejengwa, imeziba maeneo yote mawili, huwezi ona gari likija au likienda. Nafikiria yule dereva alikuwa anavuka hapa, hakuweza kujua gari moshi linakuja, na wakati gari yake imekwama, wale watu wote walikuwa ndani wakapatwa na ile ajali.
Irene Mchuma, Odim, Kurunzi Mashinani.
Wakazi wa eneo la Isiolo Kaskazini wametakiwa kutumia chuo cha kiufundi kilichojengwa kwa kima cha shilingi milioni 170. Chuo hicho kilichojengwa mnamo mwaka 2014 na serikali kuu ikishirikiana na hazina ya maendeleo ya bunge ya Isiolo Kaskazini kwa nia ya kuwapa maarifa vijana ambao hawajajiunga na shule za upili ama vyuo vikuu.
Kulingana na Geoffrey Mutua ambaye ni mhadhiri katika chuo hicho, amesema chuo hicho kina wanafunzi 20 pekee wanaopokea mafunzo katika taaluma tofauti, hali ambayo amesema inavunja moyo ikilinganishwa na gharama ya ujenzi wa chuo hicho.
Sasa ndio ningewahimiza vijana wale ambao labda waliona ni vigumu kuungana na chuo kikuu wakuje wajiunge na hiki chuo ili waweze kujiajiri ama kupata kazi zile ambazo maybe zimekosa watu wengi, kazi kama ya stima.
Mutua amesema inasikitisha kwamba wengi wa vijana wamesalia nyumbani na kujihusisha na vibarua vidogo vidogo badala ya kujiunga na chuo hicho kujipatia maarifa. Aidha, aliwataka kumakinika na chuo hicho kwa manufaa yao ya baadaye. Aliyekuwa mbunge wa Isiolo Kaskazini Joseph Samali ambaye
vijana hao waliokongamana kwa hafla hiyo wangeficha furaha yao. Priscilla Karisa ambaye ni mmoja walionufaika na mpango huo katika wadi ya Sabaki alielezea furaha yake huku akiwataka vijana kuwa macho na kuhepukana na uwezo wa kutumiwa visivyo na wanasiasa.
Kusema ukweli ni kwamba vijana tumekuwa tukihangaika kama mimi mwenyewe kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa kazi. Lakini pia tunashukuru kwa sababu nafasi hii imewapa vijana uwezo wa kuajiri na kuwasaidia kimaisha.
Naibu kamishna wa kaunti Dhuo Ngugi ambaye aliongoza hafla hiyo alisema takriban vijana 3,103 wamejumuishwa kwenye mpango huo kutoka eneo bunge hilo, ikiwa ni wafanyikazi 3,005 na wasimamizi 98. Alitoa wito kwa vijana hao kufanya kazi hiyo kwa bidii na kukumbatia sera za serikali, kwani mpango huo ulizinduliwa na serikali kwa mudhumuni ya kuwapa uwezo vijana na wala sio kwa kisiasa.
Message we have for the youths ni kwamba hii kazi wamepewa na serikali. Hii sio kazi wamepewa na wanasiasa. That one lazima wajue. Na tumewachagua kwa sababu serikali inawajali. Na kwa hivyo tunaomba hata hao vijana wajue pale hiyo pesa inatoka na hata wao wajaribu kusupport serikali yao.
Kwingineko, zaidi ya vijana 8,500 kutoka kaunti ndogo zote katika kaunti ya Murang'a watanufaika na awamu ya 3 ya mpango wa kazi mtaani. Kamishona wa kaunti ya Murang'a Karuku Ngumo amesema mpango huu unalenga kuwafaidi vijana kwa kuwapa uwezo wa kujiendeleza kiuchumi. Wizara ya Nyumba na Ustawi wa Miji kwa ushirikiano na maofisa wa utawala wa serikali kuu imekuwa ikisimamia mpango huo tangu kuzinduliwa kwake mnamo Aprili mwaka wa 2020. Elvis Otieno, Kurunzi.
Na chama cha kitaifa cha dhehebu la Krishna jijini Nairobi kiliandaa msafara wa amani wa kuombea amani humu nchini wakati wa kipindi cha uchaguzi. Hafla hiyo iliyoongozwa na Saraswani Maharaji ambayo ni kuhani wa hekalu hilo, ambayo baadaye aliandaa msafara huo wa amani kutoka jumba la mikutano la kimataifa la KICC kuelekea barabara ya Kenyatta Tomboya, mzunguko wa Globe Cinema hadi hekalu la Hare Krishna lililoko eneo la Ngara. Akiongea wakati wa hafla hiyo, balozi wa India hapa nchini Vrinder Paul aliwahimiza Wakenya kuwachagua viongozi wenye agenda za maendeleo.
The streets of Nairobi, always starting from the city center and ending up peace
we Jagannath just coming to see us. In all other temples, we go to see the Lord in the temple. But Lord Jagannath is so merciful. He come to us. He just travel on the roads and to give his mercy.
To our Kenyan brothers and sisters, Mr. Narendra Bhai, we salute you. Please expand your wings, not only in Kenya but throughout the world.
Originating in India, but also as a very physical symbol of friendship between India and Kenya.
Na mtazamaji, kikundi cha wasanii wa muziki wa jadi mkoani Sichuan nchini China kinajitahidi kuendeleza opera ya Tibet iliyodumu kwa miaka 600 licha ya uhaba wa fedha na waigizaji. Opera hiyo inahusisha nyimbo za jadi, ngoma, hadithi, sarakasi na maonyesho ya maombi ya dini. Asili ya opera ya Tibet ya karne ya 15 na inachukuliwa kuwa mabaki hai ya utamaduni wa Tibet. Leo kwenye makala yetu kuhusu Ifahamu China, tunakujuza kuhusu vikundi vinavyojizatiti kudumisha utamaduni huu.
Mwaka wa 2009, opera ya Tibet iliwekwa na shirika la Umoja wa Mataifa la elimu, sayansi na utamaduni UNESCO kwenye orodha ya urithi wa utamaduni usioshikika. Kwenye kaunti ya Judicial mkoani Sichuan, kundi la watu linaloundwa na wakulima na wafugaji wanafanya juhudi za kudumisha urithi huu wenye thamani. Maonyesho ya opera ya Tibet kwa ujumla yamegawanywa katika sehemu 3. Ya kwanza kwa ajili ya ibada, ya pili kwa ajili ya kusimulia hadithi, na sehemu ya 3 kwa ajili ya baraka. Opera kamili ya Tibet inaweza kuchezwa kwa siku 2 au 3. Lakini sasa wachezaji wa kundi hilo wanakuwa na muda mfupi tu wa kutumbuiza. Kwa hiyo inawalazimu kuruka sehemu ya pili ambayo ina monolojia na uimbaji kwa lugha ya Kitibet, kwa sababu si kila mtu miongoni mwa watazamaji wanaweza kuelewa Kitibet. Kwa hiyo wanazingatia zaidi sehemu ya kucheza inayochezwa kwenye ufunguzi na ufungaji, sehemu ambazo ni tafsiri za sherehe za Wabudha. Ingawa maonyesho yanayofanywa na kundi hilo yanapokelewa vyema, lakini kiongozi wa kikundi cha opera cha Watibet wa Judicial mwenye umri wa miaka 53, Tashi Jamso, bado ana wasiwasi kuhusu mustakabali wa opera ya Tibet kutokana na ufinyu wa bajeti na uhaba wa waigizaji. Hadi sasa hawana ufadhili wa kutosha. Wanakikundi wote 25 hawajalipwa. Watu wengi wenye vipaji wanapendelea kutafuta pesa kuliko kufanya mazoezi na kujifunza opera ya Tibet. Ingawa kikundi hiki kinakabiliwa na changamoto mbalimbali, vijana wa kizazi kipya wameeleza matumaini yao kuhusu opera ya Tibet. Gama Dorji mwenye umri wa miaka 23 ni mmoja wa washiriki wadogo wa kundi la Bwana Tashi. Anasema opera ya Tibet imekuwa sehemu ya maisha yake, akitarajia utamaduni huo wa kipekee wa muziki utaendelea kuwepo kutokana na juhudi zinazofanywa na yeye na kizazi chake.
Mwanamke mwenye umri wa miaka 30 kutoka eneo la Kyuso huko Mwingi Kaskazini anafanya kila juhudi kupata matibabu. Lena Ndanu amesema ameishi na hali hiyo kwa muda wa ziada, kwa muda wa zaidi ya mwaka mmoja kunradhi, na sasa hawezi kuona. Ndanu sasa anatoa wito kwa wahisani kuwasaidia kugharamia matibabu katika hospitali ya PCA huko Kikuyu, kaunti ya Kiambu.
Akiongea katika chumba chake katika mtaa wa mabanda ya Mwihoko anapoishi na mamake mzazi, Ndanu alisema tatizo hilo lilianza mwezi Aprili mwaka jana baada ya kijiti kidogo kuingia kwenye jicho lake. Jicho lake la kushoto lilianza kufura na kuwa na uchungu. Ndanu ambaye ni mama wa watoto 5 aliyekuwa mchuuzi huko Kyusa, sasa analazimika kuacha biashara hiyo ili kutafuta matibabu. Ndanu anasema alitembelea hospitali mbalimbali katika kaunti ndogo ya Kyusa ambapo alipewa dawa ya jicho hilo, lakini hakupata afueni. Alipelekwa katika hospitali ya Mwingi level 4 ambapo baadaye alipelekwa katika hospitali ya PCA Kikuyu kaunti ya Kiambu ambapo alifanyiwa matibabu ya mionzi yaani x-ray.
Mwingi nikatuma Kikuyu nikaenda nikapika presha tukaambia tukapata na tukuwa na afya tukarudi huko Mwingi.
Tutapelekwa Mwingi hospitali tutapeka Kikuyu tutapikwa pizza, hakuna pesa, tutarudi nyumbani.
Ndanu alisema yeye na mamake hawawezi kumudu matibabu hayo na wakalazimika kurudi nyumbani. Mamake Ndanu mwenye umri wa miaka 72 alisema ameshindwa kupata shilingi 30,000 kugharamia matibabu ya mwanawe na wanatoa wito kwa wahisani kumsaidia kupata matibabu kwani yeye ndiye tegemeo.
Tutuomba serikali itusaidie, tutataka chakula na tutaka pesa ya kwenda hospitali.
Beatrice Gatonyengetich, Kurunzi.
Mtazamaji, hapo ndio tunalikunja jamvi la Kurunzi Mashinani Jumanne ya leo. Nasema shukran sana kwa wale wote waliofanikisha taarifa za Kurunzi Mashinani. Mimi ni Khalid Abdullahi, anayenisaidia kwa lugha ya ishara ni Byron Abuli. Kumbuka mwenzangu Gladys Mungai anakuletea tamrini siku ya leo. Kwa heri.
Top sports attractions on KBC Channel 1. In July, Kenya Morans face off against the DRC, Egypt and Senegal in the FIBA Basketball World Cup African Qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt from 1st to 3rd of July 2022. Also in July, Kenya plays South Africa in Rugby League Test matches in Nairobi with the return fixtures set for October. Still in July, watch the World Athletic Championships from 15th to 24th July live from Oregon, USA as Kenyan athletes seek glory. Followed by the 22nd Commonwealth Games from 28th July to 8th August live from Birmingham, England. In August, join our coverage of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships from the 1st to 6th of August 2022 from Cali, Colombia. Then in November, catch the World Half Marathon Championships on 13th November from Yangzhou, China. Now that's what sets us apart as KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Like this on our wedding night, all right?
Wedding night?
Are you willing to follow my lead? Destroy those damn Celestials so we can rule? I'll drag the Heavenly King out of heaven myself.
I'm sorry for what I've done to you. I feel so guilty about what's happened. I can't forgive myself.
As campaign intensifies for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
But how did you find him?
Adrian found him.
Adrian? You got away with it, didn't you?
Child will no longer be able to know his father. My child will no longer have a father.
Why did you tell your father that you're now pregnant?
But you come back.
How I wish you had already been lost forever and never had come back to this house again.
If the child is not yours, why did you agree to be the father? My dad committed suicide.
Without you all over my face.
Lakini kama leo hakutaki, sikwambie tu.
Hata sio alikuwa akifikiria wapi kualika watu kama hiyo.
Kufanya hii sherehe limeniudhi sana.
Wenyewe wanasema kila soko lina mwenda wazimu wake. Naona yule ndo wetu hapa.
Top sports attractions on KBC Channel 1. In July, Kenya Morans face off against the DRC, Egypt and Senegal in the FIBA Basketball World Cup African Qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt from 1st to 3rd of July 2022. Also in July, Kenya plays South Africa in Rugby League Test matches in Nairobi with the return fixtures set for October. Still in July, watch the World Athletic Championships from 15th to 24th July live from Oregon, USA, as Kenyan athletes seek glory. Followed by the 22nd Commonwealth Games from 28th July to 8th August, live from Birmingham, England. In August, join our coverage of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships from the 1st to 6th of August 2022 from Cali, Colombia. Then, in November, catch the World Half Marathon Championships on 13th November from Yangzhou, China. Now that's what sets us apart as KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Barabara mpenzi mtazamaji, ni wasaa na wakati mwingine tunapokutana kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini, ikiwa leo ni Juni tarehe 7 mwaka 2022. Ni fahari yangu kukuletea kipindi hiki. Mimi naitwa Gladys Mungai. Unaweza kusema nasi kupitia mitandao yetu ya kijamii at KBC Channel 1 na at Gladys Mungai. Mada yetu kuu leo mtazamaji ni agenda ya Azimio la umoja kwa vijana katika taifa la Kenya, na studioni nitakuwa naungana nao Ashford Mushiri ambaye ni wakili na Joel Kweyu ambaye ni mwanaharakati wa masuala ya vijana hapa nchini Kenya. Tutakuwa tunaanza na wewe Joel, na pindi tu Rashid Ashford Mushiri atakapokuwa anafika tutakuwa tunaendeleza, atatupata tukiendeleza moja kwa moja kuhusiana na hotuba ya kiongozi wa mrengo wa Azimio. Ni hotuba ambayo ilichukua kipindi cha saa moja, karibia saa moja unusu hivi. Kama kijana, pengine ni yapi ambayo uliyasikia kutokana na hotuba hiyo?
Asante sana Gladys Mungai kwa nafasi hii, na pia asante zangu kwa shirika la utangazaji nchini KBC kwa kupatia vijana nafasi kama hizi ili tukaweze kuzungumza na kunena mambo ambayo yanatuhusu sisi kama vijana. Na nikirejelea swala lako, ni kwamba jana tumekuwa na kipindi muhimu sana katika taifa letu la Kenya. wakati ambapo Azimio One Kenya ilikuwa na convention yao kule Nyayo Stadium. Na tukawa tunapata vipengele ama manifesto ambayo Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, Martha Karua na timu yake watakuwa wanatumia ili kujiuza kwenye wananchi wa Kenya. Na wamekuwa na vipengele muhimu, vipengele 10, na kivyangu jinsi ulivyouliza swali lako ni kwamba nimeweza kusema ya kwamba wakati umewadia ya kwamba tukaweze kuokoa nchi yetu. Nilipokuwa nasikiza hotuba ya Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, niliweza kuona vipengele muhimu ambavyo vinaguza zile tenzi muhimu katika jamii. Amezingatia mambo ya vijana katika manifesto yake, na amezingatia mambo ya kina mama, na hata yeye mwenyewe ameanza kuonyesha ya kwamba anawadhamini wanawake na wamama wa hili taifa. Ameongelea mambo ya vijana na kazi, kuleta kazi katika jamii, na hayo ndiyo mambo ambayo yamekuwa yakirudisha nchi yetu nyuma. Na alipokuwa akizungumza niliweza kuona ya kwamba wakati umefika ya kwamba tukaweze kuokoa nchi yetu, tukaweze kupatia nafasi vijana na kina mama wakaweze kuongeza sauti yao kwenye meza ya kitaifa, tuweze kujua ni wapi tunaweza lifikisha nchi yetu iwapo tutaweza kuwazingatia. Amezungumzia kuhusu jambo muhimu sana ambalo Wakenya wote wana shida na jambo la ufisadi, ambalo ni jambo ambalo limekuwa kizungumkuti, limekuwa chanzo cha uzoroteshaji wa uchumi, limekuwa chanzo cha kupoteza fedha katika nchi hii ya Kenya, na hata service delivery inakuwa ni shida, wananchi wanateseka kule nje. Lakini mheshimiwa ameweza kuainisha na ameita azimio la uwajibikaji, ya kwamba kila mmoja aweze kuwajibika, awe ni mwananchi wa kawaida, awe ni kiongozi, hata kidini, hata kisiasa, kila mtu aweze kuwajibika. Na hata baada ya
tunarejelea swala hilo la azimio la uwajibikaji, ikalinganishwa kwamba ni mojawapo ya agenda za azimio ambazo mrengo huo unasema kwamba iwapo utapata ushindi katika uchaguzi mkuu wa Agosti basi watatekeleza zile agenda. Lakini kuna chamno ambacho wanasema kwamba katika siku zao 100 afisini, hiyo ni miezi 3 hivi, kuna yale ambayo watakuwa wameshatekeleza. Nazungumzia masuala ya kuhakikisha kwamba bei ya mafuta imerejeshwa chini kwa kiasi cha haja, masuala ya kulegeza kamba katika gharama ya maisha, na bei ya kutumika kwa fedha katika mitandao ya kijamii, na hali kadhalika matumizi ya data hapa nchini Kenya. Pengine mtazamo wako kuhusiana na hilo, tahadhari, na kwamba sio tahadhari bali ni kwamba ni lengo la kuhakikisha kwamba katika siku 100 kuna yale ambayo watakuwa wametekeleza. Pengine kwa mtazamo wako inawezekana, na ni yapi hasa pengine yatiliwe maanani ama yafanywe niposa pengine zile agenda ziafikiwe?
Mwenzangu Gladys, ningependa kukuarifu ya kwamba yale malengo ambayo yameweza kuainishwa jana na waheshimiwa kule Nyayo Stadium yote inawezekana. Kwa sababu gani? Ninaweza kuambia kwamba nchi yetu ya Kenya ina uwezo mkubwa sana, kwa sababu ina uwezo mkubwa sana. Kitu ambacho kimekuwa shida ni ufisadi. Na baada ya hotuba zile za jana niliweza pia kupata nafasi kumsikiza naibu wa rais kwenye Azimio ambaye ni Martha Karua. Akawa pia anaulizwa kuhusu atawezaje kuwafikia, kama serikali ya Azimio itawezaje kuwafikia malengo ambayo wameweza kuyasema. Na niliweza kumsikia vizuri, akasema ya kwamba shida kubwa sana hii nchi ni ufisadi. Na kwa hivyo tunapopoteza pesa kwa ufisadi, juzi mwaka jana ulisikia rais mtukufu Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta akisema ya kwamba nchi yetu ya Kenya, serikali ya Jubilee inapoteza shilingi bilioni 2 kila siku. Ukifanya hesabu zako utapata ya kwamba ufisadi ndilo jambo kubwa ambalo linapaswa kushughulikiwa kwa kidharura, ili tunapoweza kusave this 2 billion kila siku. Ukifanya hesabu utapata ni mabilioni ya pesa ambayo inapotea na kuingia kwa mifuko ya walagai na wafisadi, na kwa hivyo huduma inakosa kufikia mwananchi wa kawaida.
Katika hilo swala la masuala ya ufisadi kwenye agenda nambari 8, azimio la uwajibikaji, kinara wa mrengo wa Azimio anasema kwamba iwapo atachaguliwa, basi pengine serikali yake huenda ikatangaza ufisadi na wizi wa mali ya umma na ubadhirifu pia kwamba liwe janga la kitaifa. Pengine kama kijana ambaye ikiwa asilimia kubwa ya vijana nchini Kenya bado tatizo la kwamba lazima uhongane hapa na pale ndipo ukapata huduma, ni wakati pengine janga hili ama kosa hili ama doa hili katika jamii likatangazwa kuwa janga.
Ninakubaliana na Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga ya kwamba ufisadi imekuwa kidonda ndugu kwenye taifa hili, na imefika wakati ambapo yatupasa kusema ya kwamba imetosha. Na iwapo kuna madhumuni ama kuna mambo ambayo yanaweza kuwekwa in place ili kuweza kufukuza hili janga kwenye hili taifa, however much itakuwa na uchungu, inapaswa kuwekwa. Kwa maana gani? Saa hizi Wakenya wanabidii sana, Wakenya wanasumbukana kule nje. Mimi ninafanya kazi na vijana ambao wanafanya kazi ngumu, kazi za sulubu ili kuweza kujikimu kimaisha. Ile pesa shilingi 100 anayopata anapiga hesabu, ifanye hii, ifanye hii, ifanye hii. Kwa hivyo iwapo kuna mtu mahali ameketi kwa ofisi, kazi yake ni kubadhiri ama kufisadi ama kuchukua pesa ambayo Wakenya wamehangaika kupata. Wamama kule Pumwani, nimetembea huko mimi mwenyewe nikapata wamama wanajifungua katika hali ambayo ni mbaya sana. Kwa mahospitali wamama wanakosa maji ambayo ni kitu muhimu sana kwa mama. Iwapo Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga na serikali ya Azimio inaweza kuzingatia hili swala na aweze kudeclare kama national disaster, janga la kijamii, inaenda kusaidia na vyombo vyote viweze kuwajibika, vyombo vyote viweze kujitenga ama kujialign towards kuachieve hii agenda ya kwamba yeyote atakayepatikana na na apelekwe kotini na koti iweze kuexpedite ile process ya kuweza deliver justice, iweze kuharakisha ya kwamba mtu asiibe alafu kesi inachukua miaka 7. Hata Wakenya wanasahau kuhusu ya maneno, alafu tena kesi mali inaishia hatuwezi jua. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga na serikali ya Azimio, ningependa kuwarai ya kwamba hili janga jinsi alivyosema jana likaweze kuwa declared as a national disaster, na yeyote atakayepatikana na Gladys aweze kufungwa kimaisha, aweze kuhukumiwa, na isikue ya kwamba ni kuonyesha kwa vyombo vya habari tu, bali practically kwa ground tuweze kuona wakiweza kuwekwa ndani na ile mali kaweze kurudishwa, assets and recovery iwende kutafuta na kuwatafuta na kuweza kufanya nini? Kurudisha mali ya wananchi. Kuna mambo kama EACC, ni wakati sasa inapaswa pia kukuja na policies ambayo inaenda kushughulikia mambo ya ufisadi, inaenda kuchukua vioo na kuwamulika wale ambao wameiba pesa za umma wakaweze kurudisha, ili mama akaweze kupata nafasi yake, kijana akaweze kupata nafasi yake, mzee kule nyumbani akaweze kupata zile pesa za uzeeni, ili Raila Amolo Odinga na serikali ya Azimio wakaweze kuwafikia malengo 10 ambayo ni muundo msingi wa serikali ambayo tunaenda kukua nayo.
Kwa muda baada ya muda, wakati baada ya wakati, unajumuika sana na vijana.
Ndio.
Huenda mtu akajiuliza, lazima Kenya kama taifa tusubiri hadi wakati ambapo pengine kiongozi fulani akapendekeza kwamba liwe janga la kitaifa? Kwa nini isiwe sisi kama wananchi tuwe na mazoea ya kwamba unapoona mtu ambaye pengine anataka kujishughulisha na masuala ya ufisadi ama anataka kukulazimisha wewe kujishughulisha na swala kama hilo ukalikataa, na hivyo basi kuwa swala la dondadungu likakuwa kidogo halipo? Lazima tusubiri kwamba lazima iwe declared national disaster? Kwa nini tusiwe kama watu wenye nia njema na watu wenye uraia mwema katika kuhakikisha kwamba agenda na sera za nchi zinasonga mbele pasi na kutojihusisha na masuala mawili matatu?
Ningependa kukwambia kwamba nimekubaliana na wewe ya kwamba pia sisi wananchi, unajua ufisadi silo jambo la rais peke yake, ufisadi sio kitu ya deputy president ama hata EACC peke yake. Hili ni jambo ambalo linaanza kuanzia nyumbani. Unapoambia mtoto wako anyamaze, anakataa, alafu unamwambia naenda kukununulia sweetie ili unyamaze, you are trying to bribe that child ili aweze kunyamaza. Ufisadi unaanzia kwa kiwango kidogo kama hicho. Kwa hivyo sisi kama Wakenya, kuna vitu ambavyo tunaweza kufanya bila, lakini kuna mambo ambayo Gladys hatuwezi endelea maisha bila. Huwezi maliza siku 2 kama hujala. Hiyo ndio viongozi wameweza kutumia hiyo nafasi kuweza kujua kwamba vijana hawana kazi, vijana hawana pesa mfukoni. Kwa hivyo they are vulnerable kwa jambo lolote ambalo wanaweza ambiwa linaloweza kuwasaidia katika harakati ya kuwalisha na kuwasaidia kujikimu kimaisha. Ndiposa vijana wanashindwa kusema hapana. Ndiposa wamama wanashindwa kusema hapana. Kwa sababu hauna hela, una familia inakutegemea. Una mama nyumbani amezeeka na kutegemea, ameritaya na kutegemea. Na kuna kazi mahali imesema iko mahali unatafuta kazi. Alafu unaambiwa utoe kitu ndio upewe ile kazi. Niambie utasema la kivipi? Kwa hivyo ningependa kuwarai wananchi ili waweze kuhakikisha. Ni kwa sababu mahitaji yapo. Mahitaji yapo. Familia italala njaa kivipi? Mtoto wako atalala njaa kivipi? Na kuna kazi mahali. Lakini iwapo serikali itawajibika, ikaweze kuliondoa hili donda ndugu kwenye hili taifa, ikaweze kuwajibika, 1 man 1 vote 1 shilling, ikaweze kuwa count every ministry iweze kuwa count hadi shilingi moja ya wananchi ambao wanatozwa ushuru na KRA. I think this country inaenda kukua kwa kiwango kikubwa, na jinsi mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga alivyosema, tunao uwezo wa kutoka katika uchumi wa mataifa ya tatu, the third world countries, tukaweze kukua katika uchumi, tukaweze kufikia kiwango cha mataifa ya pili, kwa sababu tuna uwezo. Tuna madini, tuna labor, we have available labor in the country, na tuna kila kitu ambacho tunapaswa kutumia ili kukuza uchumi wa nchi hii. Kinachoharibu na kinacholeta mushkil ni mambo ya ufisadi ambayo inakuwa kidonda ndugu. Lakini kwa serikali ya Azimio, na jinsi nimesikia manifesto ya Azimio jana, hili linaenda kukua jambo la sahau.
Naam. Tunazungumzia mtazamaji ajenda ya Azimio la umoja kwa vijana nchini Kenya, ila tunachukua mapumziko mafupi. Tukirejea tunaendelea na mahojiano haya. Usiondoke.
All I do is win. I wake up, I win. I close my eyes, and I win. We got an emergency, girlfriend. Keep up with me, come on, let's go. I love my curves and the skin I'm in. Switch it up, turn it down, take it up again. Come on, let's go.
Wow, you look great. Did you just come from the salon?
Darling Abuja, braids that stay salon fresh no matter what.
Karibu tena mtazamaji, na iwapo ndio mwanzo unajiunga nasi, basi unatazama kipindi cha Tamrini ambacho hii leo mada yetu imejikita kwenye hotuba ya kiongozi ama kinara wa mrengo wa Azimio la Umoja katika hotuba yake hapo jana. Na ajenda kuu yetu hii leo tunazungumzia ajenda ya Azimio la Umoja kwa vijana baada ya kusikia kutoka kwa viongozi mbalimbali hapo jana. Leo tunataka kusikia kwa vijana wenyewe yaliyowaridhisha kutokana na hotuba hiyo, ama yale ambayo pengine hayakuwaridhisha. Na tukiendelea na mjadala wetu Joel, tuzungumzie swala la ukosefu wa ajira nchini Kenya miongoni mwa vijana.
Ajira, ni ukweli ya kwamba vijana wana asilimia kubwa sana tukizingatia population ya nchi yetu ya Kenya. Na takwimu zinatueleza ya kwamba wako zaidi ya nusu ya population katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Kwa hivyo na vijana hawa ndio vijana ambao wana nguvu, wako na uwezo, wako na taaluma ambazo zinaweza kutumiwa ili kuweza kukuza uchumi wa nchi hii ya Kenya. Lakini inagadhabisha ya kwamba out of this 65% ya vijana ambao wako kwenye hii nchi hawana kazi, miongoni mwao hawana kazi. Majority of them hawana kazi. Na kijana anapokosa kazi anakuwa idle. Na anapokuwa idle ndiposa unaanza kusikia mambo ambayo yanachipuka, kutumia mihadarati, mambo ya ujambazi na uporaji, kwa sababu kijana ana nguvu lakini hana pesa na hana kazi na hana jambo ambalo linaweza kumkeep busy ili aweze kuendeleza na kuongeza nguvu yake ili kukuza nchi yetu ya Kenya. Na kwa hivyo ni ukweli ya kwamba Raila Amolo Odinga anaenda, iwapo atachaguliwa na Wakenya, anaenda kuchukua hii nchi, na jambo la maana sana ambalo inafaa aanze nalo ni kushughulikia swala la ajira kwa vijana. Nimesikia vizuri akizungumzia jana kuhusu kipengele kingine ya kwamba he's going to devolve, anaenda kudevolve manufacturing, ya kwamba every county ikuwe na every product, ya kwamba kila eneo ama kila county nchini Kenya iweze kuwa na kila product ambayo inatengeneza. Kwa mfano tu kwa ajili ya Wakenya ambao wananisikiza, tunaweza kuwa na nchi, mimi natoka Kakamega County, Mumias East Sub County, mahali ambapo tunatengeneza sukari. Mumias, kiwanda cha sukari kiko katika eneo bunge langu, na iwapo tungesema ya kwamba sukari itengenezwe Kakamega County, tukuje tuseme kwamba kahawa itengenezwe Kiambu County, tuseme ya kwamba pareto ama majani chai itengenezwe Nandi County. Katika kuwekeza katika viwanda hivi, hiyo ndiyo njia moja ambayo anaweza kutumia kutengeneza ajira na kubuni ajira kwa vijana, kubuni ajira kwa kina mama, kubuni ajira kwa wazee, kubuni ajira kwa mashirika ambayo yanapeana huduma zingine mingi. Kwa hivyo hii ni agenda kuu ambayo imewekwa kwenye manifesto ya Raila Amolo Odinga. Nataka kuwarai vijana ya kwamba tuweze kutumia nafasi hii ili tukaweze kuongeza sauti yetu kwenye meza ya kitaifa. Huu ni wakati ambao mara mingi sisi huwa tunatumiwa kuchafua, tunatumiwa kupigana, tunatumiwa kuzua vurugu na vurumai hapa na pale. Tusiweze kukumbuka makovu ya mwaka wa 2007 kwa sababu yamebaki kidonda ndugu kwenye taifa hili letu la Kenya. Na ni wakati, hata kama hatuna kazi, na wakati ni huu kuweka serikali ambayo inajali maslahi yao, na serikali ambayo inaweza kuwajibika na kujua ya kwamba vijana wana uwezo, vijana wanapaswa kuwekwa kwenye meza ya kitaifa ili wakaweze kuongeza sauti yao kwenye meza na mazungumzo ya kitaifa.
Naam, mwisho kabisa, na kwa sababu ya muda naambiwa kwamba nifungane virago. Raila Odinga ameahidi kwamba atainua uchumi maradufu iwapo atachaguliwa. Na katika kuinua ule uchumi akaahidi kwamba pia elimu kutoka vyuo vya chekechea, chuo cha chekechea hadi vyuo vikuu itakuwa bure. Ilivyoko kwa sasa ni kwamba shule ya msingi ndio bure. Katika shule ya sekondari unalipa japo kwa kiwango fulani. Jinsi ambavyo uchumi wa Kenya ulivyo kwa sasa, agizo hilo ama pendekezo hilo ama hadi hiyo inawezekana?
Nitarudia tena Gladys, ya kwamba yote inawezekana. Yale malengo ambayo yamewekwa na Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga yanawezekana. Kwa sababu iwapo tu janga la ufisadi litaweza kushughulikiwa, na kuambia hesabu tumeifanya, na tunajua ya kwamba ile pesa ambayo tunapoteza kwa janga la ufisadi ni pesa kiwango mingi sana. Na iwapo itaweza kuziba ile leakages katika serikali, ile pesa ikaweze kuhamasishwa na iwekwe kwenye chungu kimoja, ikaweze kukua distributed. Saa hii secondary education tunaita subsidized, sio free, kwa sababu serikali inatoa I think ni 22,000 kwa kila mwanafunzi, alafu inayosalia mzazi anagaramia. Lakini kwa serikali ya Azimio, iwapo kweli Mheshimiwa Martha Karua ataweza kukua the iron lady I know her of, anaenda kushughulikia hili swala za ufisadi akisaidiana na mkuu wake ambaye ni Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, pesa itapatikana na hili litaweza kuafikiana, na itakuwa furaha kwa wazazi wa Kenya, itakuwa furaha kwa wanafunzi, itakuwa furaha kwa walimu wakuu, itakuwa furaha kwa jamii kuona ya kwamba mtoto hatakaa nyumbani kwa sababu ya kukosa karo, mtoto hata kupata mimba ya kiholela kwa sababu wameshindwa kuweza kufanya nini? Kufikia shule. Malengo ya mtoto msichana yataweza kutimia kwa sababu sasa kila mtu ataweza kupata nafasi ya kupata elimu. Na jinsi Nelson Mandela alivyosema ya kwamba enemies of a nation ni ujinga, na kueradicate ujinga ni kuweza kuempower watoto, kuweza kuinvest katika masomo, kujenga shule, kujenga mahabara na kujenga hata laboratories ili wanafunzi wetu waweze kupata first class education.
Asante sana Joel Kweyu kwa kauli zako na hoja nzito hasa kuhusiana na agenda ama mada yetu kuu ya leo. Na lakini kwa sababu ya muda tutaweza kuendelea na mahojiano haya. Mtazamaji, nasema asante sana kwa utazamaji wako. Mimi naitwa Gladys Mungai. Studioni tulikuwa tunamshirikisha Joel Kweyu ambaye ni mwanaharakati wa masuala ya vijana. Wakili Ashford Mushiri tutakuwa tunaungana naye wakati mwingine. Nasema asante sana kwa kutazama. Endelea kutazama. Mwenzangu Nisi Mano anakujia kwenye kitengo cha Lunchtime News. Usiondoke.
Photographer Black Milk. I have an exhibition in 8 weeks about how things get better with time.
Let's go!
Darling Fluffy Kinky inspired me.
That looks amazing.
I'm seeing how the twists blend with her hair over time. How she actually feels more confident.
Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
She's really more beautiful every week. That's definitely worth celebrating. Darling Fluffy Kinky. Twists that get better every day. Just like you.
Pili, nalapa ni wako hapa nyuma.
Unaendeleaje?
Better without you all over my face.
Lakini kama leo hakutaki, si akwambie tu.
Hata sio kwa kufikiria watu kualika watu kama hiyo.
Kufanya hii sherehe limeniudhi sana.
Wenyewe wanasema kila soko lina mwenda wazimu wake. Naona yule ndo wetu hapa.
Kupata Yes My Love kama sikiza tune yako, dial *811 *816#.
Mutiso, wewe nafanya nini hiyo? Wacha nieleza, panataka hiyo kitu. Panataka Mutiso.
Mbo sasa hiyo tu unakuja unaanza kunizuzia kwa nini hata sijafanya kitu?
Wewe nieleza Mutiso, hapana leta hiyo kitu. Taka. Wacha nachukua simu. Hello? Yes my lovely. Yes, I did the dishes.
Kupata Yes My Love, bonyeza *811 *816#. *811 *816#.
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions. Top sports attractions on KBC Channel 1. In July, Kenya Morans face off against the DRC, Egypt and Senegal in the FIBA Basketball World Cup African qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt from 1st to 3rd of July 2022. Also in July, Kenya plays South Africa in Rugby League test matches in Nairobi with a return fixture set for October. Still in July, watch the World Athletic Championships from 15th to 24th July live from Oregon, USA as Kenyan athletes seek glory. Followed by the 22nd Commonwealth Games from 28th July to 8th August live from Birmingham, England. In August, join our coverage of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships from the 1st to 6th of August 2022 from Cali, Colombia. Then, in November, catch the World Half Marathon Championships on 13th November from Yangzhou, China. Now that's what sets us apart as KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Good afternoon. It is the 7th of June 2022. Thank you so much for joining us here on KBC Channel 1. It is 1 p.m. We are live here at the Broadcasting House. We are also live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter at KBC Channel 1. I am Nisi Emano. Anwangeshi is our sign language interpreter this afternoon. Many thanks for joining us. Now, a 30-year-old woman from Kuso, Mwingi North in Kitui County is on the verge of losing her eyesight owing to lack of money for her medication. Lena Ndanu says she has lived with the eye condition for over a year now and she can barely see. Ndanu is calling on well-wishers to come to her aid so that she can access medication at PCA Kikuyu Hospital in Kiambu County.
Speaking at her home in Mavoko Informal Settlement, where she lives with her mother, Ndanu said the problem began last year in April after a small piece of foreign object got into her eye. Since then, her left eye started swelling and became painful. The mother of 5 who was a hawker at Kusa was now forced to abandon her small-scale business and began seeking for medical attention to restore her health back. She visited dispensaries within Kusa sub-county and would only be given eye drop medicines that did not improve her condition. She was then referred to Mwingi Level 4 Hospital, where she was referred to PCA Kikuyu Hospital in Kiambu County.
Mwingi nikatuma Kikuyu. Kikuyu nikaenda. Nikapika pesa. Tukaambia tukapata na tukuwa nasi. Tukarudi huko Mwingi. Tutapelekwa Mwingi hospitali tutapeka Kikuyu tutapikwa pisa, hakuna pesa, tutarudi nyumbani.
Ndanu said since she and her mother could not afford the amount required to start treatment, they resorted to go back home. The mother, Agnes Kiungu, said her daughter has been experiencing a lot of pain, but the duo can hardly afford a painkiller since they are jobless. The 72-year-old mother said they have no means of raising the 30,000 shillings required for medication.
Tutuomba serikali itusaidie. tutataka chakula na tutaka pesa ya kwenda hospitali.
And elsewhere, the media has been called on to ensure transparency and fairness in the coverage of political functions in the run-up to the general elections. Media Council of Kenya CEO David Omoyo says the media has a responsibility to increase public confidence in the media coverage of elections and that capacity building is needed to realize this. Omoyo spoke at a Nairobi hotel during the media summit on elections that brought together stakeholders from the industry and the civil society, among others.
With 62 days left to the general election, the media has been put to task to ensure access to election-related information is available in a timely manner for the electorate. Speaking during a media forum on elections, Media Council of Kenya CEO David Omoyo said the industry has to exercise integrity and fairness in the dissemination of information relevant to the elections.
It's about perception. Have we been given all the information we want? Have they opened the servers? Did they transmit from 34B or 34A accurately and all that? If we miss that, we could spend years and years and hours in here discussing transparency and elections, but as long as people do not trust the processes, we will end up in. Also reminding the media from time to time about the ethics, the principles of balance and objectivity, and making sure that people can see and trust that we are balanced and objective.
Sentiments echoed by Katiba Institute's Executive Director Christine Nkonge, who said that the rule of law can only survive if there's an open government and free media to inform the public. Nkonge are calling on media institutions to exercise fact-checking and carry out relevant civic education.
We recognize the aspirations of all Kenyans for a government based on the essential values of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and rule of law.
Royal Norwegian Ambassador Gunnar Andreas Holm said their government supports credible and fair elections, even as he called for decorum and decency in the political space throughout and after the elections period.
To do this, media itself must maintain a high standard of free and fair coverage of politics and society. 41% of Kenyans believe media covered the last elections freely and fairly. I hope the deliberations today and the process to follow and the ongoing process in other meetings all over the country will reflect on how this number can be improved in this election cycle.
Kenyans will have a chance to select the leaders of their choice from MCS to the president in the August 9th polls. Yusufar reporting for Lunchtime News.
All right, we now want to head over to Mombasa County. Our team is there and we are going to be joining them for a live update. Okay, I guess we will take that story a little bit later in this bulletin. But moving on, the cancer burden continues to grow globally, exerting physical, emotional, and financial strain on individuals, families, communities, and health systems. A team of cancer survivors from Uwezo Cancer Support Group have embarked on creating awareness on the risk of cancer and the hope of battling the disease. The initiative, according to an official member, aims at encouraging and supporting cancer survivors. Pauline Nasimiu reports.
Under the auspices of Texas Cancer Center, the group of cancer survivors got an opportunity to freely interact with experts and share experiences as they battle the cancer disease. An official member of Uwezo Cancer Support Group, Esther Nzoli, say that for most people, a positive cancer diagnosis increases social isolation, which often leads to depression since most of them don't have the right information on cancer.
It was not easy for me, even when results came out. It was cancer, cervical cancer, stage 4. And you know, in the mind, when you are told you have cancer, definitely it's like you have lost everything. So to me, it was like life is no more.
A cancer survivor, Dorothy Mulei, noted that battling cancer is not easy and it requires a lot of support from the family and those around you.
Immediately we came here, Texas Cancer Center, and saw Dr. Nongesa, admitted for 2 weeks, and then I was managed. But then she referred me to a hematologist, a doctor that deals with cancer, blood. And then he told me, and then partially they treat here in Kenya, But for fully treated, I should choose either South Africa or India. And so that would cost about 2.5 million. So the first shock was cancer, and secondly, the money.
An oncologist at Texas Cancer Center, Dr. Catherine Nyongesa, said that cancer is difficult to detect since it has symptoms like other diseases, so patients tend to be diagnosed for other diseases only to get a cancer diagnosis when the disease has progressed.
One of the challenge we face is delayed diagnosis, so they come when the cancer is a bit advanced, some of them. Another challenge is the financial. They don't have an HIF card or they don't have money to pay for their treatment. Another challenge is just navigating through this difficult system, like, from the counties to go to Nairobi, where you can get actual diagnosis and treatment. So that just the complexity also brings a challenge to them. Another one is the family support. Some don't have good family support. And then the stigma. Some people assume that when you have cancer, it is a death sentence, and which is clearly not, because we've seen it from the cancer survivors.
She acknowledges the support of the government in helping reduce cancer cases in the country.
The government has really done a lot in the past I would say in the last decade, we have many cancer centers that have come up to just assist with patients. I can just name a few, like the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, Moi Teaching Referral Hospital. Today we are launching the Nakuru PGH Hospital for just cancer care. Soon we'll be launching Garissa. So there's a lot of development in that aspect.
They spoke at the Texas Cancer Center while celebrating the National Cancer Survivors Day that brought together cancer survivors from different parts of Kenya. According to research, majority of cancer patients are admitted to cancer health facilities when the cancer stage is advanced. This is because most are misdiagnosed. Reporting from Texas Cancer Center for Lunchtime News, I'm Pauline Nasimio.
Away from that, the Kenya National Union of Nurses and Kenya Union of Clinical Officers Nairobi branch now want the Nairobi Metropolitan Services to absorb the contracted staff to permanent and pensionable scheme, saying the workers have stagnated in one job group for the last 10 years. The health workers who held peaceful demonstrations outside Nairobi Metropolitan Services (NMS) offices further demanded immediate resignation of the director, Lieutenant General Mohamed Badi, and Human Resource Manager Kibet.
Led by the Kenya Union of Nurses Nairobi Secretary Boaz Onchari, the group of health workers marched towards the NMS offices in a peaceful demonstration, demanding for resignation of their bosses.
Indeed, these guys were employed by NMS through Public Service Commission, and the same employer gives a notice. Why is NMS not implementing the same notice that PSC gave? That is why we are saying, if we transit to the county, the employer will be at liberty to either absorb these guys upon expiry of that contract or dismiss them. And that will, under the law, under the labor laws, will not be right.
According to Onchari, some staff who were employed under a 3 years contract have stagnated under one job group since 2010.
Members will be having letters. We are not asking much. We're just asking the DG to honor his word and give these members their letters so that we go back to work. In fact, we don't like striking. We don't like picketing. We don't like demonstrating. We like discharging our duties as well-trained. So, atupatie barua zetu, as said, in 2 weeks' time, we have no problem. We'll go back to work and work.
Tom Nyakaba, the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers Nairobi Secretary, affirmed that the group has held talks with Major General Badi several times, but the demands are yet to be met.
The group of health workers under the NMS have threatened to continue holding a series of demonstrations until all their demands are met, as they even continue to paralyze their services and calling for immediate resignation of the Director General of Health and the Human Resource. Frederick Muki for Lunchtime News.
Residents of Isiolo North have been urged to make use of the 170 million shillings polytechnic facility in the area. The Vocational Training Institute was built in 2014 by the national government together with the Isiolo North CDF in a bid to provide technical skills to members of the youth who are unable to get into secondary schools and universities.
According to Geoffrey Mutua, lecturer at the Polytechnic, the institution only has 20 students who are undertaking various training, which he says is discouraging compared to the investment that the government had put in place.
Sasa ndio ningewahimiza vijana wale ambao labda waliona ni vigumu kuungana na chuo kikuu wakuje wajiunge na hiki chuo ili waweze kujiajiri ama kupata kazi zile ambazo maybe zimekosa watu wengi, kazi kama ya stima.
He appealed to members of the community to utilize the facility, adding that the country is heading the TVET way. Former Isiolo North MP Joseph Samal, who initiated the project, urged locals to make use of the facility.
I want to urge people of Merti, people of Isiolo North constituency, waweze kuchukua hiyo institution kuwa ni yao, waweze kusupport institution, na waweze na community ya hapo waweze kumobilize watoto wao, wale ambao hawataenda secondary, wale hawataenda colleges, hawataenda university, watumie hiyo institutions hata kama wamepata grade kidogo, lakini watabuild skills zao na waweze kupata namna ya ujenzi, wajenge manyumba.
He added that the facility could facilitate growth of the area by attracting students from all over the country and also provide investment opportunities for investors.
Elsewhere, 5 people were killed and 12 others hospitalized with serious injuries after a lorry they were traveling in was hit by a train on a railway line in Ruiru, Kiambu County. According to police, the driver of the lorry had underestimated the speed of the oncoming train.
The victims are said to be laborers who were traveling to an unknown destination before the driver of the vehicle was hit by the oncoming train. Police say victims could have underestimated the speed of the train and opted to cross the railway line at the unfortunate time. 5 of the occupants died on the spot, while 12 others sustained injuries when they attempted to jump off the lorry for safety.
This is a lorry belonging to the Chinese construction company, which trying to close at the railway crossing. To us, it seems the driver underestimated the speed of the oncoming train, which was coming from Thika direction, ending towards Nairobi. So, at that juncture, the lorry collided with the train, and some of the passengers who were inside that lorry, they tried to jump. So in that process, they were crushed by the train.
Kiambu County Police Commander Mushangi Kioi says the lorry was wrecked by the impact from the speeding train.
What happened, gari kazima, like it nika ilizima tuki upande ya juu. So haiku move. So head akagonga upande ya nyuma lori kidogo, akaitanisha upande ya ndani. So when alikuja upande like wakati lori return upande ya kichwa, alibrush to the lorry. So na at that time wakati alikuwa shagongana nyuma, alikuwa watu wengine walikuwa washanguka juu ya reli. So the train is just pass to the other place.
Area Member of Parliament Simon Kingara has accused the contractor on Eastern Bypass expansion for failing to put up safety measures below rail pass.
Kama vile mmeona daraja imejengwa, imeziba maeneo yote mawili, huwezi ona gari likija au likienda. Na nafikiria yule dereva alikuwa anavuka hapa, hakuweza kujua gari moshi linakuja, na wakati gari yake imekwama, wale watu wote walikuwa ndani wakapatwa na ile ajali.
Irene Mchuma, Udim, The Lunchtime News.
Let's now switch to politics, where Kenyan Italian Franco Esposito is among 5 candidates who have so far been cleared to vie for the Kilifi gubernatorial position in the August 9th, 2022 general election. Esposito will seek the county's top seat as an independent candidate after being cleared alongside his running mate Samuel Karisa on Monday evening.
Speaking to journalists after being cleared at the Red Cross office in Malindi town, Esposito said he was responding to calls by the Kilifi electorate for better governance and management of resources.
I'm answering the call from the people of Kilifi County who are looking for a change in the way of running the government of Kilifi County, which should respond to the need of good governance and progress in education, development, infrastructures, and investment in our economy.
He said he will conduct door-to-door campaigns as opposed to rallies and use social media platforms as a way of reaching his supporters.
I will ask you to sponsor my vision, which will create a better future for your children, a county that provides excellence in education for all children of Kilifi County.
His running mate Karisa said he will work tirelessly to ensure Esposito clinches the gubernatorial seat, as they believe in his ability in bringing change in Kilifi County. Others cleared on Monday were lawyer George Kithi of the Pamoja Africa Alliance alongside his running mate Atman Seif and engineer Alphonse Zombo Mbaru of the Safina Party.
Siasa sisi tunaingia na agenda. Na hapa ni kuuza agenda ya Kilifi kwa mwana Kilifi. Atuelewe, atupatie kura. Si atuzi pesa, tunauza agenda.
Malindi Member of Parliament Aisha Jumwa Katana of the United Democratic Party and former Chief Administrative Secretary Gideon Mungaro of the Orange Democratic Movement were cleared on Sunday. However, Ford Kenya Gubernatorial candidate Michael Tinga and former Magarini Member of Parliament David Noti Kombe, who is vying for the seat on the Umoja Summit Party, are expected to appear before the county returning officer Hussein Gure after failing to meet the IEBC requirements on Monday.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, continued with the process of clearing various aspirants across the country for the August general election. The electoral body has given a green light to West Pokot Governor John Lonyangapuo to defend his seat in the August polls.
West Pokot Governor John Lonyangapuo has been cleared by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to defend his seat in the August polls. Governor Lonyangapuo changed his running mate in the last minute after his earlier nominee was said to have not resigned in time.
CEC kaunti ya West Pokot aliresign wakati pora akitaka kusimama kama mjumbe ya Kapenguria, na walipoenda nomination, hata si nomination, wakakubaliana na wenzake wakastep ye down, alafu tukiendelea vizuri ndio sasa tumepiki yeye.
Elsewhere, Nyandarua Governor Francis Kimemi has been cleared by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to defend his seat in the August 9th general elections. In Busia, IEBC cleared 3 candidates to vie for Busia gubernatorial seat ahead of the August polls. Busia Deputy Governor Moses Mulomi, former Funyula Member of Parliament Paul Tuoma and former Chief Officer for Education in Busia County Government Dan Magoria will now participate in the general election as candidates.
Sekta ya kilimo Busia ina ile tunaita potential ambayo inaweza kutoa chakula mingi sana na hata kuuza. So tayari tumeona kule Budalangi, badala ya kuwa na zile floods, tunataka tuwe na mipango ambayo tutashirikiana na serikali kuu na pia washikadau wengine kuhakikisha kwamba ule mradi wa Lower Nzoia unatekelezwa.
Sekta ya health Kenya mzima imekuwa na challenge. In fact, ingawa watu wanasema ni Busia peke yake, ukisoma gazeti, nyinyi mnaandika magazeti, mnajua the challenge is all over. There are many counties ambazo zimekuwa na challenge ya health. Na ile kitu ambayo tumefanya Busia, tumeweka foundation.
Former Chuka University Vice Chancellor Professor Erastus Njoka has also been cleared by IEBC to vie for Tharaka Nithi County gubernatorial seat and our Jubilee Party ticket. In Turkana, former petroleum and mining CS John Munyes has been cleared by IEBC to vie for the county's top seat. At least 6 aspirants are seeking tickets to succeed Nanok, who is aiming for a national seat.
Mwanzo mpya imeanza ya kukomboa Turkana kwa shida ile nchi yote inajua shida ya ufisadi, shida ya njaa, shida ya elimu duni na taabu nyingi hapa. Turkana is a face of suffering in this country.
Finally, in Kisii, 3 gubernatorial aspirants, namely Senator Professor Sam Ongeri, immediate former Transport Chief Administrative Secretary Chris Sabore, Nyaribari Mesaba legislator Ezekiel Mashogo, were given the green light to participate as candidates in the August polls.
Going round saying that I have no running mate and I don't have officials. The journey has started. Our clarion call is a peaceful election.
I want to take this opportunity to appeal to residents of Kisii County that we will be there talking and working with them and appealing for their support.
They are not people who are prone to violence. Each and every time we have campaigned ever since the time we started, you have not heard of any single incident from Machogu, from Migosi, or from the UDA team.
And more than 500 Mombasa residents have lodged a petition in Mombasa High Court demanding that former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko be cleared by IEBC to vie for Mombasa gubernatorial seat in this year's general elections. The residents in their petition filed in court yesterday evening are accusing IEBC of deliberate failure to follow the due process of the law in denying Sonko his constitutional rights to vie for the governor position.
Speaking after filing the constitutional petition, Lekishane Ngala Ndune and Geoffrey Owako Gishana, who are the main petitioners in the case, termed the statement issued by IEBC disqualifying Sonko from contesting for the county seat as lacking merit in law.
Wakati umefika wa sisi ku practice our rights, political constitutional rights, directly kwa kwenda kwa uchaguzi kuchagua viongozi tunaotaka. Ni haramu kwa mtu yeyote, including IEBC chairperson Chebukati, kusimama na kusema ya kwamba amefanya maamuzi na kumachilia mbali Mike Mbuvi Sonko na wengine.
Gichana, who is also vying for Kisauni parliamentary seat on a Wiper ticket, argued that Sonko's appeal case was still laying in court and therefore he should not be victimized against the law.
Chebukati, wana Mombasa wanalilia haki yao. Wananchi wana uwezo wa kuchagua kiongozi wanataka. Si Chebukati na timu yake wakakaa pamoja wakaamua kuwa Sonko hafai. Wananchi wa Mombasa tumeadaiwa na tumedanganywa. Haki yetu tusidanganywe na tusinyanganywe. Sisi tunamhitaji Sonko. Sonko ni kipenzi chetu, kipenzi cha watu, na tunahitaji mtu wa kufanya kazi.
Moving on, a section of youth in Malindi sub-county has lauded the government's move to relaunch Phase 3 of the National Hygiene and Sanitation Program, commonly known as Kazi Mitaani. The youth said the program could not come at a better time owing to the current economic hardship partially occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic.
Speaking at sub-county headquarters, youth from 10 wards in Kilifi County who congregated for the launch of the program lauded Phase 3 of Kazi Mitaani. The Deputy County Commissioner Dhuo Wangogi, who presided over the program, said a total of 3,103 youths have been hired across the sub-county with 3,005 workers and 98 supervisors.
Message we have for the youths ni kwamba hii kazi wamepewa na serikali. Hii sio kazi wamepewa na wanasiasa. That one lazima wajue. Na tumewachagua kwa sababu serikali inawajali. Na kwa hivyo tunaomba hata hao vijana wajue pale hiyo pesa inatoka na hata wao wajaribu kusupport serikali yao.
Priscilla Karisa, a beneficiary from Sobaki ward, commended the program and urged fellow youths to be vigilant and avoid being misused by politicians during the electioneering period.
Kusema ukweli ni kwamba vijana tumekuwa tukihangaika kama mimi mwenyewe kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa kazi. Lakini pia tunashukuru kwa sababu nafasi hii imewapa vijana uwezo wa kuajiri na kuwasaidia kimaisha.
Elsewhere, more than 8,500 youths drawn from all sub-counties within Murang'a County are also set to benefit from the Phase 3 of Kazi Mitaani program. Murang'a County Commissioner Karuku Ngumo has said the program will assist those recruited to earn income to cushion them from financial constraints.
Kazi.
In Kirinyaga, the government has launched the third phase of Kazi Mtaani program after the Treasury set aside funds for the program. The expanded phase is aimed at creating job opportunities for more than 8,000 youth in Kirinyaga County, as well as enabling them to engage in self-employment during this electioneering period.
Niwashukuru wale wote ambao wamejitokeza ambao ni wana youth kwa kuja katika hii exercise. Ninawashukuru. Na ile namba ambao ni kubwa zaidi kwa hapa ni kuonesha ile na matarajio ya wanayuthi ili waweze kupata nafasi katika hii kazi.
The Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, in collaboration with National Government Administration officers, has been coordinating the program since it started in April 2020. Elvis Otieno for Lunchtime News.
Away from that, members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in Nairobi held an annual peace caravan where they prayed for Kenya to have peaceful elections. The ceremony, which was conducted by Saraswani Maharaji, the temple priest, later held a peace caravan from KICC Kenyatta Avenue, Tom Mboya Street, Globe Cinema Roundabout to Ngara Hare Krishna Temple. Speaking during the event, India High Commissioner to Kenya, Viranda Paul, urged Kenyans to elect leaders who are development-oriented.
The streets of Nairobi, always starting from the city center and ending up.
Peace that we Jagannath just coming to see us. In all other temples, we go to see the Lord in the temple. But Lord Jagannath is so merciful. He come to us. He just travel on the roads and to give his mercy.
To our Kenyan brothers and sisters, Mr. Narendra Bhai, we salute you. Please expand your wings, not only in Kenya but throughout the world.
Originating in India, but also as a very visible symbol of friendship between India and Kenya.
It is time for our first break, but after this break, we'll have more stories including business and sports. Do stay with us.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
But how did you find him?
Adrian found him.
Adrian?
You got away with it, didn't you?
Child will no longer be able to know his father. My child will no longer have a father.
Why did you tell your father that you're now pregnant?
Why'd you come back? How I wish you had already been lost forever and never had come back to this house again.
If the child is not yours, why did you agree to be the father? My dad committed suicide.
Welcome back. Let's now switch gears to business. Architects are sounding alarm over the high number of unapproved construction projects going on in the country. The Architectural Association of Kenya says over 70% of ongoing projects have not gone through the right approval processes, risking the lives of users. The association is calling on county governments to hire certified professionals in order to reduce the construction mishaps witnessed in the country.
The construction sector has added over 400 billion shillings to Kenya's gross domestic product in 2021, providing direct and indirect employment to millions of Kenyans across the country. Despite this, the sector has not been spared from the global constraints occasioned by COVID-19 and local challenges that are debilitating the practice. Architectural Association of Kenya President Wilson Mugambi says poor online permit systems, unnecessary formalities when seeking tenders, and choosing foreign companies over local talent is derailing the growth of the infrastructure sector.
If you have people who have the capacity and the knowledge of this kind of projects, basically have properly registered architects, engineers to actually approve and overlook all the projects being submitted by their colleagues, it will actually be seamless.
Even if they are to come and do the work, we need to have a bigger share in terms of the work. They need to partner with the locals.
The association is now urging relevant state agencies and the National Construction Authority to improve digital permit systems because despite the review of the building code, many portals and government offices still frustrate professionals in the sector. They say over 80% of building and planning applications in various counties on the e-permitting system are yet to be approved. The association argues the county governments have no clear statement of the timelines, with delays taking up to a year.
Most submitted plans have been pending for 8 weeks, while some take up to 1 year without approval.
AAK now wants the government to provide a system where local professionals get priority over foreign companies on projects in the country to ensure locals benefit the most in the sector. For architects across the country, the demands are quite simple: streamline processes to ensure professionals handle construction projects. Hibak Saeed for Lunchtime News.
Moving on, the International Monetary Fund says Malawi is requesting a 4-year credit facility extension to help the country gather finances to pay its debts. The IMF says restoring debt sustainability and resolving a case involving alleged misreporting of foreign exchange reserves are the prerequisites for support. Here are the details of the story and much more from across the continent.
Malawi has requested a 4-year extended credit facility from the International Monetary Fund to help with the balance of payment difficulties. The country has been experiencing acute foreign currency shortages that has seen its kwacha weaken by 25% against the dollar. The IMF team conducted a mission to agree on a macroeconomic framework, policies and reforms. The International Monetary Fund says it welcomes the move to normalize the forex market and that Malawi's authorities have engaged a debt advisor to support efforts to address unsustainable public debt. Meanwhile, rising fuel costs are forcing many people in Uganda to bike rather than drive to save on transport costs. A road in the middle of Kampala's central business district has been designed for non-motorized transport. Authorities believe that creating more cycling lanes in the city will help cut emissions and also promote healthy living for city dwellers. Authorities are now setting up more car-free zones. Data from Makerere University shows that air control monitors are hitting record highs by 5 to 7 times above the World Health Organization required levels. But as more cyclists hit the streets of Kampala, the carbon footprint could soon be reduced. Finally, more than 2,200 confiscated motorcycle taxis have been crushed in Nigeria's biggest city of Lagos, following a ban on the vehicle due to rising cases of accidents and insecurity. Motorbikes, popularly known as Okadas in Nigeria, have been classified as the latest threat to safety and security. The Lagos state government is now seizing and crushing those caught violating its latest ban. The ban has had a mixed reaction from local residents, with some saying the riders drive dangerously, while others say Okada riding provides vital work for young people. The government says it has recorded 85% compliance in the first week of the ban.
And the government is seeking to coordinate all agriculture investments in the country in the next 5 years to streamline activities in the sector. The government expects to ramp up key reform in the sector to increase production in the agricultural sector. Through the Institution Capacity Strengthening Plan, the program will address individual, institutional and systematic challenges that mitigate the envisaged transformation.
Chief guest who will make
this capacity is required. First, as the capacity goes to the farmer, how does it go there? So we have very many players along the value chain in the sector that we expect to communicate, to deliver that technology, that message to the farmer on how to produce, on how to process. The secretary, he was the first one, and he's
looking at how institutions are organized to deliver. Are there systems in place, incentives to drive staff to be able to deliver in the right capabilities? Then at systems level, as was mentioned, we are looking at extension systems. We have climate change at hand. How are we going to address that? So what kind of capacities do we need?
We are aware that national government develops policies in collaboration with counties, and then counties implement the policies that are developed. And so when we look at the capacity strengthening plan, we are looking at how do we ensure that the counties are developed in terms of the necessary requisite capacities, in terms of the individual systems and institutional.
On the international scene, Elon Musk has threatened to walk away from his $44 billion takeover of Twitter, accusing the social media company of thwarting his request to learn more about its user base. In a letter filed to regulators, Musk said he was entitled to do his own measurement of spam accounts. Details of this and more in our international news wrap.
The letter formalizes a dispute that has simmered for weeks after Musk declared the deal on hold pending further information. Twitter has defended its estimates. Musk has said he believes spam and fake accounts represent a far greater share than the less than 5% of daily users that Twitter reports publicly. The letter read, as Twitter's prospective owner, Musk is clearly entitled to the requested data to enable him to prepare for transitioning Twitter's business to his ownership and to facilitate his transaction financing. To do both, he must have a complete and accurate understanding of the core of Twitter's business model, its active users base. The dispute has raised more doubts about the future of the takeover, which Twitter's board approved in April. Meanwhile, fast food giant KFC has been forced to put cabbage on its burgers and wraps in Australia as the country is struggling with shortage of lettuce. The firm told customers it is using a mixture of lettuce and cabbages after floods destroyed lettuce crops. It comes as shoppers in Australia have been hit with soaring prices for some fresh fruits and vegetables. Social media users have posted photos of lettuce costing over $10 Australian, 3 times the usual price. It is not the first time this year that the company has been hit with shortages of food items. In January, KFC Australia had to modify its menu due to the lack of key ingredients chicken. Finally, German industrial orders fell more than expected in April, the third decline in a row, driven by a weakened demand and heightened uncertainty due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Orders for industrial goods dropped by 2.7% on the month in seasonally adjusted terms after an upwardly revised decline of 4.2% in March. Terry Njenga, Lunchtime News.
The World Bank projects that Kenya's economy would this year slow to 5.5%, down from 7.5% in 2021, dragged by the knock-on impact of the Russia-Ukraine crisis, as well as poor rains and risks associated with the August polls. The latest report by World Bank further indicates that high commodity prices would make imports expensive, and exports are likely to be negatively affected by a projected slowdown in global growth.
Kenya's economy staged a remarkable recovery from a contraction of 0.3% in 2020, a first in nearly 3 decades, to a growth of 7.5% in 2021, boosted by recovery from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic that saw all economic activities, save for agriculture, register positive growth. In its latest forecast, the World Bank has upgraded the projected growth for Kenya's economy for this year from an earlier figure of 4.9% to 5.5% on account of a stronger than expected recovery from the coronavirus pandemic last year. The World Bank projects that Kenya's economy would have grown by a higher figure, but is likely to be dragged by the impact of Russia's invasion of Ukraine that has driven up the prices of fuel, fertilizer and wheat. The report indicates that the war in Ukraine and subsequent sanctions on Russia are expected to subtract about 0.5 percentage points on Kenya's GDP this year and 0.3 percentage points in 2023, mainly due to indirect terms of trade losses. The World Bank projects that high commodity prices will increase import costs, while the projected slowdown in global growth will soften the demand for Kenyan exports. In 2021, all sectors of the economy, save for agriculture, registered growth, and the World Bank projects a slowdown in the agriculture sector to persist this year due to poor rains and higher farm input costs. The report indicates that this is likely to increase food insecurity and in turn drive up poverty levels, as a large proportion of the population rely on the sector for their livelihoods. Regina Mayar reporting for Lunchtime News.
On groundnut farmers in Busia, Homa Bay and Siaya counties are said to benefit from aflatoxin control training as part of the World Food Safety Day. The training by the European Union-funded Market Access Upgrade Program will see farmers trained on the best practices to ensure safety of food from farm to fork.
Kenya has been witnessing high cases of aflatoxin contaminations in cereals, which is linked to some health issues being faced in the country. Aflatoxin is known to attack maize and groundnuts while still in the field, and when the grains are not properly dried before storage. To reduce cases of aflatoxin on groundnuts, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, through an EU-funded program known as Market Access Upgrade Program, are training farmers in Busia, Homa Bay and Siaya counties on the best groundnuts husbandry to reduce cases of aflatoxin contamination.
Viability system is a very important component for food, and it's supposed to assist even consumers in case when there's non-compliance or contamination in food. The retailer or supermarket or mama mboga, then mama mboga can be able to track back on the person who supplied them and eventually, if possible, to the producer.
The training will also target value chain players, including extension officers on aflatoxin management.
Ni kitu ambacho kimeaffect sana maisha ya watu. Kama mwaka wa 2004 kulikuwa na 317 cases of acute aflatoxicosis that were reported in Makueni, and of those around 125 lost their lives.
The recommended levels of aflatoxin in a sample of grain is 10 parts per billion, with any grain that exceeds that considered unsuitable for human consumption. In partnership with the Agriculture and Food Authority, the Market Access Upgrade Program has developed rules and regulations of an integrated traceability system from farm to fork. This year's World Food Safety theme is Safer Food, Better Health. Benson Ruba reporting for Lunchtime News.
Time now for sports. Defending champions France have 1 point from 2 Nation League games after being held to a 1-1 draw by Croatia in the Group A one match played in Split. Meanwhile, Denmark won 2-1 against Austria last night.
That was good refereeing. He was about to block.
Didier Deschamps made 10 changes from the side who threw away a lead to lose 2-1 to Denmark on Friday. France looked on course for victory when Antoine Rabiot's goal finish from Wissam Ben Yedder's ball gave them the lead.
We're watching Rabiot take the lead for France. It was a strange old build-up, to be truthful.
Handrej Ramarik scored a fine penalty after the video assistant referee awarded him a spot kick following a foul by Jonathan Klose.
Kramaric delays and puts it into the other corner.
Meanwhile, Denmark moved to the top of Group A1 on 6 points after winning 2-1 in Australia. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg and Jens Larsen scored 2 goals for the victors, while Hava Slager pulled 1 back for Austria. Austria is placed second, 3 points adrift, while France and Croatia are ranked 3rd and 4th respectively, with 1 point apiece from the 2 matches. Meanwhile, in Group A3 of the UEFA Nations League, England faces Germany while Italy takes on Hungary tonight. England will be without James Justin and Fikayo Tomori, but fellow defender Mark Guehi is set to return from an ankle injury. Elsewhere in Italy, Domenico Berardi, Marco Verratti and Jorginho have been omitted from the squad. The trio featured for Italy in their loss to Argentina in Finalissima Cup match.
That's all the time we had for lunchtime news, but we do appreciate your interaction and your feedback. And I see a couple of people on Facebook at KBC Channel 1. Obera Juma says he's watching from Makindu. Dennis Marube watching from Nakuru. Fred Magufuli watching from Kidundu, Maragoli, and so many more. Let's take one more story before we finish this bulletin. The Azimio administration will be banking on manufacturing and livestock to expand the economy to double-digit growth. The political outfit says it will increase funding to counties to start industrial parks and tap heavy machinery companies to set up steel mills and motor vehicle manufacturers in Kenya. The coalition party's manifesto that was unveiled yesterday is also banking on increasing investment in agriculture to drive economic growth. All right, that story will also be coming in our subsequent bulletins. We are still also following up on a couple of other political stories as the IEBC continues to conduct to vet the aspirants for governor positions. So we will be keeping tabs on those, and we will be bringing that in our subsequent bulletins. Thank you for joining us. I am Nisi Imano. Lucy Maura is our sign language interpreter. Good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? We are stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Pili, nalapa ni wako hapa nyuma. Unaendeleaje?
Better without you all over my face.
Lakini kama leo hakutaki, si akwambie tu.
Hata sio kwa kifikiria watu kualika watu kama.
Kufanya hii sherehe limeni